can promise you I'm not ever going to become a full horror VTuber. full 100%. That is not going to happen. Do not worry. Also, hi, good evening. Thank you for the pet. Thank you for the pigtails. I am not. There's just because I'm more open to the horror genre when it comes to visual novels. There's just a few more of those in there, but I am not going to become a full horror VTuber. There's no way. You have seen me play the few horror games that I do play, and most of those were like, oh, okay. I will, however, play games with horror elements in them. Yes, that's fair. But yeah, well, come in. Good evening. Quick thingy. I once again cannot see my fucking cursor because I think that's just a problem with VTube Studio. Where it's because I'm turning that using this same game to like make my model also have the same kind of colors and stuff, and that every time I do that I cannot see a cursor anymore, but I can see the cursor on the stream, so that's funny. Anyway, this is Who is the Red Queen. Who is the Red Queen? I mean, I hope this is on purpose because there doesn't seem to be a song or anything on the main screen. However, there's sound. So we'll just have to see how loud this is and then hope. You see me panicking over horror stuff. Yes. See? So but yeah. This game, actually, by the way, for anyone who's interested, is free to play. It's a Studio Line game, it's free to play, so it has 3 major endings and plenty of dead ends. I am, however, trying to go for the major endings. Oh god, no. No. Oh, we don't like that. Ew. This hasn't happened in a while. I'm surprised. We are, however, going to go for the major endings. I will be making saves for the bad endings and stuff though, so I can catch those myself some other time then. Canonically correct for Fox. They're very cute. I also have one singular Sailor Moon figurine actually, which is of Sailor Saturn. It's a very, very small one of her. It's the only Sailor Moon figurine I have. Was on the show all the time. I mean, I can imagine. I have to say, when I watch Sailor Moon, I never looked at the cars they're driving ever. I can't. I did watch the entirety of the Sailor Moon anime from back then and everything that came out. But I don't think I ever looked at the car in more detail. But hell yeah. I know very little about this one. There's some pretty strong content warnings for the game that they tell you both on the Steam page and also when you open up the game, so that's why they're pinned up there. Just have to see how that goes. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the actual car they had in there. Like I can see that happen, so. Aha! Alright. Oh god, I have to read. Falling. I was falling. Down this rabbit hole with no start, no end. I was falling. Where had I gone? Where could I go? As if I were forgetting something very important, I fell down and down through sparkling, shining darkness. Too bright to be dark, too dark to be bright. I must have been chasing after someone, after something. Like a girl whose curiosity was piqued by a rabbit with a watch, I was falling. Down. Again. This endless well seemed to lead everywhere, yet nowhere at once. Either the hole extended very deep, or I descended very slow. Was it truly even going downward? Perhaps this was all a dream. A fever dream, or in more words, a fantasy that would be as soon forgotten as it was had. I have just one certainty. I was Alice. Alice was me. Now then, just how long was I supposed to keep falling? The air brushed past my fingers, my cloak ruffling upward. A quiet, humming breeze caressed my cheek. As if I could hear someone's voice, pleasant voice, a woman's voice. I strained my ears for whispers in the wind. Alice, what a time for madness. Without a bit of fear or vertigo, should you not have focused on topics more pressing? Like the darkness or the light or how you couldn't awaken from your strain. Even now you were just falling. It doesn't matter. With a thump, I came upon soft grass and the fall was over. Not a bit hurt, I forced myself to my feet. Up above my head, the firmament bends I fell had nodded down its blue canvas. Down about my eyes, only familiar, unfamiliar surrounded me. You're looking at the wall, okay. Wait, I need to fix some... Yeah, okay, I need to just fix one thing real quick. I think this is... Okay, I think this is just a Rampai and VTube Studio issue. Alright. I started on an exploratory stroll. Because now I'm just forever blue. Ow! Sorry, 1 second game. I'm so sorry. I am going to fix this. Give me a second. There we go. It's a Rampai Games in full screen, combined with the VTube Studio trying to grab the colors from them. That's the issue. I found out what it is. Hi, Baba. Good evening. Soon I stumbled upon a rabbit who looked like a girl, or a girl who looked like a rabbit. Perhaps the correct answer was that she was both a girl and a rabbit. Oh, perhaps. Not lingering much longer on the species of the rabbit before me, I called out to her. Excuse me, where was this place? Why was I here? How could I leave to return home? I thought of what to ask her, but she recognized me as soon as I spoke, so my questions were lost in my mouth unasked. Alice? White Rabbit? Have you seen Her Majesty? Do you know where she's gone? Where she could go? Rabbit girl, you say? Rabbit girl? Her Majesty, the Red Queen. She must be taking a vacation of sorts. I only wish that she could have left this little rabbit a note. Oh, thank you. Yeah! I'm in a bit of a panic, you see. The land can run without its queen. Please let me know if you catch sight of her. I nodded. Who this Red Queen was, I had not a clue, but a tingling déjà vu. Still, my acceptance of the request let the White Rabbit breathe out a sigh of relief. Just as I prepared to pose my own questions, she straightened her back in surprise. I'm afraid I have to go. I'm going to be late. The White Rabbit dashed off, and I am afraid I'm extremely green. Why am I so extremely green? We're extremely green. I wanted to ask some questions. Never mind that. Follow her, Alice. Although I chased after her with only a moment's pause, when I turned a corner she was nowhere to be seen. Ooh, I found myself in a garden meticulously kept. That's a very pretty garden. Evening! Hello, hello. How's the sound, by the way? I feel like I could turn the game up a little more, actually. What about this? Is this any better? Troubleshooting. Trailing the rabbit, I barely dashed a few paces. I hadn't realized such a place was so close by. Rather, I hadn't realized I had run this far. Conjecture tickled my mind that this world I fell into was a magical place. One with paths that pointed to one way but twisted to another. What an explanation. Much more far-fetched than me just not knowing where I was running. It took a moment to catch my breath. Glancing around, I began my walk about the garden. Flowers and greenery all around, but not a person in sight. This place was beautiful. Seems fine to you? Okay. I wanted to meet the person who made it. Not quite a gardening person myself, I still appreciated a pretty place and felt a swelling excitement to explore what sights could be seen. A reminder of reality then dampened my joyful curiosity. I wanted some answers, a way out and back home. As pleasant as dreams were, one had to be able to awaken from them before they turned into nightmares. Whether this was a dream or reality had still yet to be seen. Step, step, I walked around. Hop, hop, I peered over the bushes. Soon enough, I discovered the heart of the garden where one might sit for tea. I spotted a white-haired girl in the garden. Among my previous thoughts, wouldn't it be right to say that I rather also appreciated a pretty person? I Fabulous thoughts flew from my mind as our eyes met. Her gaze seemed to beckon me over, so I went to speak with her. Are you enjoying the garden? The garden is beautiful. The gardener will be happy to hear that from you. However, if you've come here now, you should be searching for something. We should first introduce ourselves. I am the White Queen. Just like with the rabbit, for reasons unclear to me, I already knew who she was. Here, that should be as good as her name. Your Majesty, my name is Alice. Don't stand on ceremony, Alice. I'm not someone you need to speak with particularly respectfully. Welcome to my garden in Wonderland. Wonderland? I tasted the word on my tongue. I can't remember why or how I'm here. Not this garden, but Wonderland. I was falling, and I couldn't remember why I was falling. I was simply falling until I fall no more. I find it very interesting that it's specifically 3 times falling. I wonder what would have happened to Alice if she was only falling 2 times instead of 3. I'm sure I've forgotten something very important. You needn't force yourself to remember. Some things are better left forgotten. Perhaps it was fated for you to come here. Perhaps something is missing that you must find. This world must appear like a place of dreams. You should find the Red Queen. The missing queen whom the White Rabbit mentioned was the Red Queen. I waited for the White Queen to continue. She hesitated to speak of the Red Queen, as if the elusive royal would appear like a ghost behind her as she spoke. Oh, okay. Well, I hope you're gonna feel better, Mel. Don't force yourself. Too much, though. I tried to imagine what sort of person the Red Queen was. She will let you return to your own reality. When you meet her, you should be able to find all of the answers you're seeking for. As for where she is, that is for you to discover. Do you dislike her? That's a difficult question, Alice. So she's like that. I'll let you judge the Red Queen. You might learn something new about yourself. Shall I head off to find her now? Why not stay for some tea? Of course I'd love to, but it's not quite afternoon tea time yet. A later time then. Certainly, to have tea outside of tea time wouldn't do. I won't keep you for too much longer, Alice. I'm sure you will be able to find that person soon enough. I cannot talk today, I'm sorry. Until later. I waved goodbye to the White Queen and departed from her garden. Glancing back, I saw her gaze linger upon me. I stepped onto a twisting path in the forest. I didn't know which way to go to find the elusive Red Queen, turning left and right. To find a queen, I thought to seek a castle. However, the rabbit said that the queen was missing, so unless the rabbit had also forgotten something very important, the queen shouldn't have been at the castle. The Red Queen, she seemed like a troubling person. The way the White Queen's face froze, tongue stuttering along at the topic of the Red Queen made me wonder. Was the latter queen a tyrant or a fool? Tutor at home liked to talk about kingship of that sort. To me, either or neither were fine. After all, who were the peasantry to affect the mood of a high queen? I hummed and walked along with a skip in my step. As I reached a rhythm in my stride, I kicked a little something. An animal that threw me off my beat. I slowed to applaud, my mood a note dampened. Soon I heard the chat of a girl a few trees away. Seeing not much civilization here in the forest, I followed the voice of the girl. Although she was chatting, I heard her voice alone. Hello. Oh, hello. I passed by a few bushes and soon enough found a tea party in the middle of nowhere. At a table set before a tree sat the girl. Hello there, Alice. What did you come here for? The chatter ceased. Her mismatched eyes pierced through me in its place. She has some homophobia in her eyes. I mean, what? Heterophobia in her eyes. God damn it, I fucked it up. Jesus Christ. I sure hope the Mad Hatter doesn't actually have homophobia in her eyes. God damn it. Brain. There's no room here at the table, so don't take a seat. No room. She moved the puppets on her hand, a sleepy mouse, and a mad hare. Looking right to left, I could barely see the ends of the table set for two. One person in such a large space, conversely, she almost seemed lonely. There's plenty of room, Hatter. No, the joke is, you say heterophobia in the eyes because it's a joke about heterochromia, so me saying homophobia in the eyes just fucking destroys it. That's a little too far removed from the original. The actual condition is heterochromia, yes, but it's joke. There's plenty of room, Hatter. To make my point, I took a seat in a large armchair across from the hatter. The chair shrunk of flowers as if to clear away the shadow of an unpleasant previous sitter. No, it's heterophobia. I'm sorry. It's supposed to. It's supposed to be heterophobia in the eyes. Yeah, sorry. I sank back into it comfortably. Then I kept sinking, before I jolted back up with a shallow gasp. There's plenty a crowd, that's rude of you to say, Alice. Not very civil of you to sit down without being invited either. But whatever, let's just treat you as our extra guest for tomorrow. Not today? Aren't they the same? Yesterday, today, tomorrow. Every day is never a day different, but since I'd rather not deal with it today, we just treat it as for tomorrow. Thomas and March don't mind. You mentioned 3, but I only see 1. She wiggled the puppets on her hands as if to explain everything. 1 was herself, 2 was the first puppet, 3 was the second puppet. I'm scared Alice might be blind. It's a side effect of being Alice, don't worry, it's just a side effect of being Alice. The pitch of her voice warped. Don't mind the comments, she's Dormouse and he March Hare. She paused as if waiting for me to greet the animal puppets. I waited. She waited. The silence of the conversation bored me, so I relented to the matter at his wordless request. I was the guest for tomorrow, so a polite guest I decided to be. Oh, hello there. I was scared she was deaf as well. Hello there, Alice. Between the puppets, I much preferred the Dormouse. If a puppet could fall asleep, she looked as if she was about to do so. I felt some pity as that meant that March Hare would speak more. What were you talking about before? A riddle? Maybe it was this one. Why is a raven like a writing desk? Do you have an answer to the riddle? You're no fun, Alice. Relax and have some wine. There is no wine. You were invited for tea tomorrow, Alice. It's the obligation of the host to offer guests a drink at tea time. Maybe she was an alcoholic. Hatter, I can in good faith call this time of day tea time, nor can I call alcohol tea. Details. Add some butter. I like that I guess maybe it's fitting for the Mad Hatter that the voice just goes all over the place. It'll be tea time eventually, so it's tea time now. We're having tea, so it might as well be tea time, don't you think? What did you come here for anyways? Although I couldn't quite say that I had come to this tea party with a goal in mind, I figured I might as well tell her. I'm searching for the Red Queen. Her brow contorted as she took a sip of her tea. Puppet sat down for just a moment. Dumping the tea away and rinsing the cup, she poured herself another drink. Oh, her. The Hatter placed her lips to the rim of her teacup and stared at me. A minute passed, all 60 seconds consisting of staring, before she ducked down under the table as if to find an item and popped back up again. Oh. Stay and chat for a moment. I'll help you with a little something regarding Her Majesty. The Hatter poured me a cup of tea and stood over a plate of sandwiches. The plate hurtled toward me, forcing me to hurriedly grab it, lest sandwiches spilled all over my lap. Luckily, the cup of tea arrived much more calmly. I took a taste, finding all grey. Is it tomorrow already? At the very least, it wasn't time for afternoon tea. If I'd known I would have tea now, I would have stayed a little longer to have some with the White Queen as well. I mean, you could go right back to the White Queen. It was not that people couldn't have tea outside of afternoon tea, but it was a principle offense. If people drink tea any time of day, they would drink it all day. I sipped some more, enjoying the citrusy flavor of this black tea. Today is tomorrow for yesterday, don't you think? Unless she doesn't think, that would have been rude of you to ask. It's just normal. Organal. I'm certainly sitting up quite straight. Regarding the White Queen, do you have some news about her? I'd say I have some business with her instead. Something to do with meat and flesh and all the other red things that a rat queen might have to do with. Aren't you a hatter? Yes. Not a butcher. Unless your meat is made out of hat. While talking about all things unappetizing, I took a bite of a sandwich filled with an ambiguous color. A milky sweetness melted in my mouth. I tasted some sort of fruit inside. Maybe it was mango, or kiwi, or strawberry. Satisfied with the pleasant sweetness, I took another sip of tea. The tea and these sandwiches are delicious. Thank you, Alice. You made them. Compliments to you, then. Wow, such flattery. Since you've put me in a good mood, I guess we can go ahead with Her Majesty's matter. In fact, she's been sitting here with us the whole time. I sat up even straighter in confusion. Glancing around, I saw no queens in sight, not a human, no animal besides the two of us here. I had to roll the chair over and pull the cloth off from over the chair's holdings. Ta-da! Nausea ran up my spine. On the chair sat a chunk of meat dressed up in tattered human clothes. Still chewing rat, the flesh seemed to ripple, undulating. Was it rotting, or was it still alive? My head spun as I squinted at the thing. This thing resembled a human torso. With half a neck and chopped off limbs, dolled up with what could have been fancy clothes, this was surely human flesh. I sensed an odd familiarity to the torso, but also felt as if I was looking at it from an incorrect angle. It was the torso of a regal woman. This was raw human flesh. This is the Red Queen? An inappropriate question flitted across my mind. Could we consider it as sitting if it didn't have legs? I suppose yes. I thought you said you weren't a butcher, Hatter. We definitely couldn't consider this a hat. Having just eaten, the strawberry taste in my mouth turned to a meaty texture like raw pork. I could almost taste sweet, rotten fat. I swallowed. I wonder if the Hatter wanted to make me sick. Yes, I'm a Hatter. I closed my eyes and rubbed the bridge of my nose. Too distracted by the surprise, the feeling of my fingers almost felt like wet ground meat, even though I was sure that my digits were still attached to my palm. The image lingered uncomfortably behind my eyelids, not with disgust, but with another inexplicable emotion, a negative one for sure. I looked at the torso again, and it seemed so still. I saw exposed bone and a shattered tract. Yeah, I do not know how to say that. The cut must have not been wholly clean, made with a blade sharp, not quite enough, yet also dulled not quite enough. So just a shit knife. Like, I'm sorry. This was the Red Queen. Oh god, it's getting louder. I knew not why I knew, but a voice in the back of my head told me that this was the Red Queen. A part of the Red Queen. I'm afraid Her Majesty can speak right now. I had to stir her tea and pop the bite-sized sandwich into her mouth, munching happily. Don't look like that, Alice. The Hatter didn't dismember Her Majesty. You already found her like this? Yes, Hatter's innocent. Since only the Hatter spoke up in defense of herself, I wasn't particularly inclined to believe her, but whether or not she did kill the Red Queen, the end result sat before me. What should I do now? I murmured my uncertainty at the stat end out loud. What do you mean? All you have to do is find all of the other pieces. If you have anything you need Her Majesty for, all you need to do is put her back together. Have you forgotten, Alice? It sounded mad. So mad I wanted to laugh. This is Wonderland after all. All I needed to do was find the pieces. That's right, Alice. That was all you needed to do. It would either be terribly simple or terribly hard. I hoped that no one had fed the Red Queen to the pigs or minced her up for a patty. Regardless, all I really needed was a hat and a torso if I wanted to talk to her, to ask about the secrets to returning home. May I take the body with me? Alice, you were a civilized girl. Did you really want to look around in a piece of meat like you were some meat seller, selling to the cannibals? No, that wouldn't be fair, don't you think? Once you find most of her parts, let's just say the limbs, I'll give you a special present to help you out again. She patted a box up to the side of the table. The box was just big enough for a cat or a cake, or maybe something like a hat. Of course, don't peek or try to find out what the present is. Why, you have a head in there? You won't be surprised at that, and I'll be very, very upset if you cheat. With that smile on her face, I could see her upset. Only muddled sincerity came through her voice. Now then, I've got to grab something off the stove before it burns. I had to get up from my seat and walked away. Here I was alone with the Red Queen's flesh. I was missing all 4 limbs and a hat, so to make a whole, I would need to find 5 parts. I hoped that my search would be easy. Seeing as the Hatter was nowhere in sight, I contemplated a decision regarding a curious box on the table. Oh, okay, this is where we're starting off. Alright. Let's just start on the second page for all of my saves then. It's not even chapter 1, it's literally chapter 0. Okay, we're starting with chapter 0. I'm assuming if I sneak, I just die immediately. Yeah, that's a dead end. Okay, to be fair, you know what? How will you kill me? Show me. I tiptoed over to the other side of the table and surveyed what was around. I couldn't help but feel the headless slab of human watching me, but I ignored the Red Queen's body, knowing that I would be seeing it often enough. Looking over my shoulder, I was certain that the Hatter had yet to return. I'm moved to find the present box on the cluttered table. The hatter hadn't tied up the box particularly at all. I could open it and close it as if it had never disturbed this mysterious prize to begin with. As if I cracked open a small gap so that nothing could come flying out. Dun 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 dun. Dun dun. Oh, no. Nothing escaped from the box. Instead I heard a strange strangled noise from whatever lied inside. A gurgling, drowning voice that caused chills to settle on the back of my neck. That's a good question. It has around 35,000 words, so depending on how well I'm reading, we could make it today, I think. In one go, I took the lid off the box. Inside was a head, a bloodied head. The head seemed so familiar, but I couldn't quite make out the face, as if the box had been jostled. I squinted. Spinning. The world was spinning. A sharp pain burst through my temple, and I rested a palm on my head to stop a growing, pulsing headache in my skull. I reached out the shaking hand to adjust the head in the box. Step, step, step. Footsteps interrupted me. I thought I only just said not to peek, Alice. The hatter brandished a hammer in her hand, the head and face a glowing red as if it had been left on the stove. She just get what she just deserved. I backed up, crashing into the table, nearly tripping on my own cloak. She raised her arm with the hammer in hand and... I mean, yeah, that's kind of... Death 1 out of... Ooh, 9% of script seen. Death 1 out of how many? I am not going to get every single dead end on stream, though. I'll tell you this, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of bad endings. Dead endings to this game. Let's listen to the hat. Let's not cheat. Let me actually, one thing though. He's just a tad. Okay. Let's listen to her. I shook my head. Instead of antagonizing the hatter needlessly, I decided to take another sip of tea. I would see what was inside the box eventually. But hey! I was right! There was a head in the box! I knew it! Is this a good point in time to say that I've never actually read the original Alice in Wonderland? Are there non-bad ends? Non-dead bad ends? Ooh, no, I think all of the... There's 3 main endings, and then all of the others are the dead ends. I don't think... I mean, unless one of the big endings also counts as a bad end, but I wouldn't know. I doubt it, though. I had to return soon enough. In her hand was a hammer, glowing bright with heat. She chucked it to the side with the thumb and let the metal sizzle on the ground. What was the hammer for? Does the hammer need a reason to be? Anyways, go ahead and try to find some of the Red Queen's body. An arm, a hat, or maybe 2. Just bring them back here for me to attach to this. She pointed to the torso. It'll still be tea time when you come back. Let's just count you as an extra guest for the next tomorrow as well. To be exact with time, now was not tea time. I suppose there's not much else to do here. I looked at my empty cup of Earl Grey and lifted myself up from the armchair. For what it was worth, I quite enjoyed this odd-hour tea. Checking my legs just to make sure they hadn't fallen asleep, I started to leave. Until later. Auf Wiedersehen! Auf Wiedersehen! She leaned back into her chair and made a lazy wave my way. Somehow she looked lonely. I returned to another forest path, walking forward and forward. After moving for a while, I realized that I had no idea where I was going. In simpler words, I was lost. I walked around in a few circles before looking upward. Above, I saw a cat. A cat who resembled a girl, or a girl who resembled a cat, leisurely stood on a tall branch of a tree. Unlike the White Rabbit, this cat, the Cheshire Cat, I couldn't help but wonder if she was actually neither a cat nor a girl, and was just pretending to be either. Thank you! Nice! We're fitting in with everyone here, huh? I met her cat eyes, nodding in a silent greeting. A grin stretched across her face as she stared right back. Sharp teeth filled her mouth, and claws adorned her hands. This was probably a cat. Cheshire. The flame that was her tail flickered, and she hopped down to meet me closer. I don't suppose you tell me which way I should go? I posed a silly question that I expected no answer for. After all, I was asking a cat for directions. Depends on where you want to go. To my surprise, I received a response. To find the Red Queen. Ah, the crazy one! Are you sure you prefer not to go with the nice one? The one I'm searching for is the Red Queen. Alright, the Mad Queen. Then again, we're all mad around here. That is except for Her Majesty the White Queen. She's too sad to be mad. If you're looking for the Red Queen, up, up, down, down, left, right might help. Self-awareness, Alice, self-awareness. The Cheshire Cat vanished into thin air. Soon enough, she reappeared. Just go to the White Queen instead. Maybe you'll find something on the way. She started to fade away again before popping back. I forgot to ask, how's the Hatter doing? She seems to be fine. It's all tea time over there. It's always tea time with that one. The third time she disappeared, leaving a grin lingering in the air before that too vanished. This was a grin without a cat instead of a cat without a grin. The third time was a charm. The cat did not return. Up, up, down, down, left, right. I don't know what you mean. I can't say I've seen a cat quite like that before. Then again, Cheshire wasn't really a cat. Walking a few 3 lengths more, I mulled over the odd advice she gave. Right then. Let's go. Up, up, down, down, left, right. We do love ourselves a good Konami code, yes. I tried to remember just what the Cheshire Cat had said, speaking the pattern of directions allowed to a beat. Up, down, down, left, right. I felt as if I'd missed a few items, but that was all that the cat had given. I backtracked to the position where I met the cat and followed the recommended directions. Soon enough, I found myself at a crossroad. I saw no limbs, no heads in sight. Left was labelled right, right was labelled left. With wrongly written signboards, I chose at random on where to go next. Every few meters, I found a new signboard with its own quaintly marked arrow. Whether or not they led to the right place was another issue. I slowed my pace to read the signs and followed them along. Today is a rainy day. I didn't know which genius thought to put a forecast onto a wooden sign on the side of the road, but I followed the direction to go right regardless. The sky had not a drop of rain in sight. Warning, cliff ahead. As it happened, neither was there a cliff ahead. Watch out for dragons. I looked for the dragons, but the dragons did not arrive. Shameful. At some point, the text on the signs turned to insults. Fool. You don't even know who you are. Stop following these signs. How many of these will you read? I walked and walked and walked. At the end of the final sign in the chain, I reached a clearing in the forest where I spotted the white rabbit talking with a limb. Majesty, your Majesty's left arm, please. I blinked. Then I blinked again. Rubbing my eyes, I saw the same image. The white rabbit seemed just about to prostrate herself to a living, moving arm. The arm, despite being an arm, had taken the higher position. The ground is dirty, you needn't crawl here. Shall I take you back to the palace, or would you prefer to go to the garden or the courtroom? In fact, do you happen to know where Her Majesty is? The arm smacked the white rabbit. Although I silently observed, the arm noticed me and began to crawl over, one handful of grass at a time. It moved like a snake, like a worm, like a piece of flesh and bone that shouldn't have been able to move. Its writhing struggle sent a shiver up my spine. I didn't know if I should pick it up or kick it away. I did neither, and I reached my feet. The arm proceeded to clamp up my leg, up my cloak, clinging like some sort of dirty parasite, making its slow way up until I pushed past my building disgust to hold it in my hand instead. The flesh felt cold in my palm. I sensed no heartbeat at the wrist. Alice, Her Majesty's arm seems to have taken a... Let me try that one again. Alice, Her Majesty's arm seems to have taken a liking to me. If you find Her Majesty, please return the limb to her and tell her that her rabbit did her best. Why she hasn't had any trouble. A limb coming off isn't an everyday occurrence. She made quite the understatement. Yes, of course. How did you know it was the Red Queen's arm? I would recognize Her Majesty's limbs anywhere. Do you admire her very much? Yes, of course. I respect Her Majesty very much. She united Wonderland into this kingdom and kept peace with a watchful gaze on a criminal populace. She's a decisive ruler and holds an agreeable worldview. It should be her divine right to rule Wonderland. Heard a cat call her mad. A dangerous expression flashed through the White Rabbit's eyes for barely a second. Cheshire Cat is a known problem element here. Her Majesty's mad and such madness is in a sense brilliance. Although I may not always be fated to be a favoured courtier, to be an Ato is my greatest honour. I cannot be White Rabbit without Her Majesty. Yes, that should be how I view Her Majesty. I gave the rabbit's impromptu speech a short round of applause, balancing the detached arm in the crook of my elbow. The rabbit became flustered. She must also like you very much. All rulers had dissidents and supporters. A certain man once said that a ruler was better feared than loved if she could not be both. Despite all that the White Rabbit said, I knew little more about the Red Queen. The Red Queen is the ruler of all this land. It's your job, White Rabbit. Yes, she's the highest ruler of Wonderland. I deal with a little bit of everything. Administrative matters, legal matters, and the personal matters of important people. Since we've met a few times, I couldn't say that I'm important, couldn't I? I could say that I'm important, couldn't I? That's right, Alice. To my tepid jest, I received a response that made me pause. The White Rabbit took out a watch and jumped in surprise upon looking at the time, quickly returning the watch to her pocket. Is it this time already? I like that she also has a watch in her hair. I'm afraid I must be off again, if that will be all. Thank you, Alice. Hurriedly bowing a few times, she dashed off back to work. Having obtained one limb, I searched around for another. Before I knew it, the day had passed. I looked toward the sky where the sun had begun to set. Letting out a yawn, I realized I needed a place to sleep for the night. I thought back to the parties who had helped me onto my adventure to gather the Red Queen's dismembered parts. Surely I could find one of them. I mean, oh god, I wonder who I should choose. I headed back to the Hatter's place. As before, I found her at a table full of tea stuffs. She nursed a cup of tea and waved at me upon spotting me. Just in time for tea, Alice. From the sky, tea time should have already passed. Perhaps this was more like supper time, so I only flashed her a smile without saying anything. I've returned with a limb. Congratulations! I handed her the Red Queen's limb, which began to move upon entering the Hatter's hand. Holding it away from herself, the Hatter seemed to think of what to do with it next. She kicked the dog cage out from under a chair. Flicking the metal hedge open, she tossed the limb into it and quickly flicked the cage shut again. Sit down. I'd be a poor host if I didn't let you sit. I popped down into the armchair. This was my chair now. I glanced around and found I didn't see the two puppets that the Hatter wore on her hands earlier in the day. I mean, she didn't have them when she came back with the hammer already, so I guess she got rid of them, maybe? Where are your friends? I gestured with my hands. They've gone home for a bit. Marge lives all the way over there in the house with ears. As for whose ears they are, I haven't a clue. Are you hungry for rodent, Alice? No. If you say so, Alice. She poured me a cup of tea and slid the tea, cup and saucer over to me, nearly spilling it over my lap. Soon after came another plate. On the plate was steak and vegetables. I should hope this isn't rodent, is it? It's something else. The Hatter didn't continue but glanced over at the Red Queen's flesh. My eyes followed the path of her gaze. Not spotting any steak-sized slabs of meat sliced off from the torso of the Queen, I saw it, and let it aside. Taking a knife and fork, I cut the steak and moved a piece to my mouth. It tasted like beef. Compliments to the chef. Why, thank you. We had together. For a Hatter, her table manners with the forks and knives were impeccable. But each time I thought to compliment them, she went and said something odd again. The Hatter was a mystery to unravel. I don't have a place to stay for the night, so I wanted to ask if you would put up with me for the night. I put up with you all the time. What difference does night make? Where I come from, people sleep at night. Sleep? You can sleep underneath the table or spread a blanket on the ground, or just sleep in the armchair you're sitting in now. Doesn't sleep just when you pretend to be dead like everyone else. Is it? Is it? Is this why you don't sleep? The Hatter had terrible bags under her eyes. I said out that she slept too much, so she could only have been sleeping too little. Look at the time. Is it really time to sleep? Napping at tea time will destroy your inner clock, don't you know? Morning, afternoon, evening. Since it's all tea time, it's better not to sleep. I thought you didn't care about time. Time doesn't care about me. Are you perhaps afraid of sleeping? What do you think, Alice? She poured herself a drink from a bottle into a teacup. I turned to look at the bottle, which was in no way for tea. Couldn't read the jumbled words scrawled across its label, so I couldn't help but ask. Is that actually alcohol? Tea. Isn't it alcohol? Tea. She drank her tea, and I didn't mind. Conversation turned to silence. I shouldn't have pushed and upset my dear host. I wanted to pet her head and apologize, for she could drink or sleep as she wanted. As I reached out, the header recoiled. She pushed her chair back from the table, taking a chance to move away. Then she dipped underneath the tablecloth, rummaging through her stuff with a rustling noise. When she popped back out, she held the blanket, which she tossed my way. Then you want to pretend to be dead right now? Go, play dead. Catching it in my arms, I smelled a sweet scent from the soft blanket. The sky was dark. I started to feel sleepy, hugging the blanket a little tighter. I'd experienced a long day after all, so perhaps it was time to go to bed. Night, Heather. I wondered if she was mad, if she would respond, but she did. Good night, Alice. I leaned back comfortably in the armchair and began to sink. Sinking. Contrary to my earliest expectations, I didn't keep sinking forever. The moment I looked up at the sky, I found I couldn't fall asleep anymore. I didn't recognize the stars, the constellations that adorned the dark heavens. Tracing their infinite sparkles, I wondered who they stood for. I wanted to understand what was hidden past those mismatched eyes of the hatter. While counting the stars, I eventually fell asleep. I dreamt of falling. I like that she does everything in threes, though. I will say this. Falling. The next day and the day after, I continued my search for the Red Queen's parts. Remembering that the Cheshire Cat mentioned the White Queen, I decided to give the Queen a second visit. A man-woman of principles. I thought I could easily replicate the route to her garden, having only recently been there. However, the more I walked, the more apparent it became that I was lost. I passed that tree to the right a handful of times already. I was going in circles, getting nowhere closer to the beautiful garden and its equally pretty owner. I let out a sigh and chose a bush at random to walk through instead of following a path. A cloak saved me from being scratched by the leaves and branches of the bushes. I came out on the other side to a particularly tall tree and a large birdcage. Oh! I spotted the White Queen inside the birdcage. Behind her was a limb, a leg. Hello? We meet again, Alice. I hadn't expected that I would be trapped here again. I'm a little embarrassed at you seeing me like this. I contemplated just asking for the leg and leaving. No, that would be a terribly foul thing to do, especially to a pretty person like her. Although in a way, it almost seemed like a good idea to leave a pretty bird locked up in a cage all for oneself. After all, how would you catch her if you let her go free? Is that the Red Queen's right leg? So it would appear. To find the Red Queen, you may have to find her parts as well. Even so, she should be able to find you, to help you find your way back home. I cannot read, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Alice. Don't apologize. Due to my presence atop the towering tree, will you help me open this cage, Alice? The towering tower brain. Read, then speak. Yes, of course. Agreeing to the request, I walked over to the tall tree that the White Queen gestured toward. How tall it was, I couldn't say. If I angled my head and squinted, I could see the glimmering of a silver key at a high branch above. We circled the tree. The front and the back, the sides, left and right, they all looked equally hard to climb. As I pondered on how to scale the tree, a little bird approached. With all the talking animals, not quite animals in Wonderland, I had an inkling that this one might speak as well. Perhaps it spoke French, like a French bird. Bonjour. Bonjour. Unfortunately, I knew little French. My practice had gone rusty, so much that the tutors would be ashamed, but I tried to pull out at least one more phrase. Oui, monsieur? I do not speak French. Yeah? I must have said the wrong words as the poor bird began to tremble. Parlez-vous anglais? Yes. Cat? No cats, please. What are you doing? I'm trying to get the key up there. What are you doing, little bird? Just having lots of fun every day. Not doing anything in particular. Now that the Red Queen, Her Majesty, is missing, Wonderland is so much more wonderful. We can play and frolic all we want. Chip, 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 chip. Auntie Bird got in trouble for breaking Her Majesty's laws, and now there's no more Auntie Bird. I was so sad.
Her Majesty was so scary, so scary. You weren't telling me, right? You look like a nice person. Much nicer than her, much nicer than her.
Oh, I see.
I'll help you with the key.
Puffing out its little chest, the bird flapped its wings and took off upward into the sky. It flew and flew and flew, but soon enough became tired. Not reaching the key in the tree, the bird faltered and fluttered back down. It dipped its head in disappointment.
Sorry, I couldn't do it.
Kill the boat! Excuse me! We are not killing the bird! No, it's okay, you tried your best. Don't worry about it. I rubbed the little bird's head, causing it to peek up at me with its large round eyes glittering with surprise. After the failed first attempt at the key, I returned to the White Queen's side. She looked fitting in a cage, pretty, like a flower preserved forever in glass. Again, I thought that she was beautiful. Really, she was beautiful. It's true, Alice. Even so, I couldn't let her stay trapped, not to mention the White Queen's leg. I wasn't able to find a way up. Do you have any ideas for what I should do, White Queen? Over there are some mushrooms. If you eat the ones to the left, you will grow. If you eat the ones to the right, you will shrink. I think they will be helpful. Magic mushrooms. I was hesitant to eat mushrooms picked from unknown wilderness, but I felt that I could trust the White Queen. Why, I didn't know. Well, this is Wonderland, isn't it? I'd forgotten something important. The feeling of forgetting tingled in the back of my mind whenever I saw the White Queen. Oh. Finding the mushroom, she pointed out I faced a choice. Grow or shrink?
We are shrinking. We're doing what she tells us to. We're shrinking this time.
I ate a right mushroom and immediately began to shrink. The world around me swelled in size. I was afraid I would shrink to nothing, but I soon stopped shrinking. I must have been the size of a doll. Looking upward, I found that the key upon the tree was even further away. I hadn't quite thought my decision through. A gust of wind blew past. Another bird appeared towering over me. The bird who previously helped me also looked large, but this new arrival outsized my little friend.
Hello, sure. I hear you needed some help. I hadn't thought you were going to be this small, but whatever works. Never know with them humans around here.
I wonder, if you kill the first bird and then shrink, what this one would do. If this one shows up, or if this one just straight up kills you. Who knows? I paused for a moment to take in this new bird. I shouldn't have been surprised anymore when the bird spoke, so I decided to take it in stride and enjoy the offer of aid we're given. I need to get the key up there.
Oh, it's probably a bit hard for you, ain't it? Since you're so chirping tiny. You were nice to Birdie over there, so I'll let you ride my back and we can go get the key if you're together. How about that?
Good. I climbed onto the bird's back, admiring the look of its feathers up close. I made myself comfortable and grabbed onto its neck.
Hold on tight, buddy.
With a flap of its wings, the bird began to fly. The wind blew past me, throwing my hair into disarray. My cloak fluttered behind me wildly. In a few moments, we reached the key at the top of the tree. I grabbed it, placing my arm through the loop to hold it while riding the bird. He was heavy, a silver thing almost as big as me. We descended, and I dropped the key to the ground. Thank you for the assistance.
Welcome. Don't expect a free ride again. I'm going to get Birdie and go, so have fun with your own thing, tiny human.
The bird left with its smaller friend. I left the key over to where the White Queen sat, breathing heavily when I finally walked the full distance with the weight in my hands. You could have eaten a mushroom to become big before attempting to lug the key over. The key I now had, but the cage I could not open. I was much too small. The magic will wear off. In the meanwhile, would you accompany me to chat, Alice? That may be for the best. I would have to wait till I reverted back to my original size to open the door. Okay, that's also fair. Is the invitation for tea sometimes still open? Yes, always. Then shall I ask about what sorts of foods and tea you like to drink to see what I might expect? What's your favorite tea? White tea. Do you prefer black tea style? How do you know? We chatted for a while about tea, and at some point the conversation turned to flowers. Perhaps it was that she felt ambivalently on floral teas. You're welcome to visit the garden any time. I couldn't find the way to the garden today. Perhaps getting lost had been for the better as I found her in the end.
Yes, that happens when I'm not there, but Wonderland should lead you my way if you think of me. At least for you, Alice. I have nowhere to be but the garden. She paused, looking at something in the distance that I could not see. Would you believe me if I told you I can see the future? Ambivalent.
But how do you pronounce it in English then? Ambivalent? Ambivalent. I did. Oh. Thank you. I looked in the eyes and discerned a calm surety. I didn't feel that she would lie, yet I couldn't quite believe her words either. I wondered what I had forgotten, what I was doubting. Rather than answer, I decided to play along. Can you change the future you see? Why do you ask? Otherwise, isn't it lonesome? I don't believe that the future is predestined, but the solitude of such a power would also be fate of a queen. Would be the fate of a queen in this world. Her words sounded contradictory, even for the Red Queen. Especially for the Red Queen. The Red Queen spoke of fate as if still trapped by something more than just this birdcage. I couldn't understand. We talked a little longer. I felt a tingling in my arms and began to revert up to my usual size. The world wrapped and finally popped back into its proper place. I twirled around to check that all was well. Identifying no issues, I picked up the key that had dropped to the ground at some point and inserted it into the lock of the White Queen's birdcage. With a smooth click, the cage unlocked. I opened the door.
Oh yeah.
The White Queen stumbled out of the birdcage. Her legs still wobbly from sitting in the cage for so long, she let me hold her steady till she rebalanced herself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have to return to the garden now, but my invitation is always open, Alice. I'll see you later if you're willing.
She handed me the Red Queen's leg. Freed from the birdcage, the White Queen departed to return to her garden. After running around some more, I returned to the Hatter's place with the second limp in hand. The day came to an end, but the Hatter's clock remained at tea time. She was arguing with her own hand puppet about some sort of song, some rendition of Twinkle Twinkle. The hair on her hand was flung back and forth. I waited it out, seeing as she started laughing by herself halfway through. Apparently she couldn't sing. Once her shoulders stopped shaking, the Hatter turned to me.
Alice, you were here. I see you brought a second one. That one is 1 and this one is 2. Good work.
The Hatter clapped over his half a dozen times.
Alice, won't you join us for tea again today? Hatter made scones. It has butter.
Thank you for the invitation, Dormouse. Upon my response to the Dormouse, she immediately brightened up. If it would make the Hatter happy, I didn't see why not just play along.
Leg.
Sitting aside the puppet fence, she extended an open palm toward me. I proceeded to commit Can she just speak German again? That's fine. By tossing a limb over the Hatter's tea table to her. I took a seat in my armchair, seeing her clumsily catch it in her arms. At my seat, there was already a cup of tea prepared. You like the thought? You like the thought of the Hatter finally getting some sleep? With a free hand, the Hatter opened up the dog cage and retrieved the other limb. Do you need any help with that?
I have everything under control.
Without another pause, the Hatter stuck the limbs onto the Red Queen's torso. Flesh sounded with a squelch as the muscle, skin, and bone began to knit into place. Still a red line remained where the limbs connected. I took a bite of a scone. As the Hatter said, it had butter. The Red Queen's incomplete body twitched, something squirming under the skin. She spread some clotted cream and jam onto the scone. The perfect blend of sweetness made me wonder where she got the jam. It was very red. Ow! The single arm grabbed the Hatter, smacking as it squirmed. The Hatter kicked the incomplete Red Queen, rendering the limp hunk of meat paralyzed with shock. The Hatter forced his limbs off. A bit of blood and something else dripped onto the ground. Gripping the writhing limbs in her hands, the Hatter popped open the dog cage door with her feet and shoved them in. With a thud, into the cage, the arm and leg went. Good scones. Thank you. You mentioned you also had some business with the Red Queen, Hatter, but what is it? Something to do with red, something to do with flesh. I realized that I didn't quite know. A personal matter, Alice. I prefer if you don't pry. I was the one getting the pieces, so of course I wanted to know. Then again, the hatter could just as well put the corpse together herself. A better question was how she obtained that first chunk of meat, but I doubt that she would answer. Writing? Yeah, actually, it's one of those words where I'm never sure, no matter how many times I've looked it up, because I have looked it up before. Let's see.
Writhing.
Writhing. Okay. Fair. 50-50 chance, and I lost it. I was curious. After all, not every hatter keeps the Red Queen's dismembered body at the table, much less treats it like you do. I mean, if every hatter did that, then we would have also several Red Queen's dismembered bodies. The White Rabbit is searching for the Red Queen right now, you see. And the Red Queen is right here. At least, part of her was. No one likes the White Rabbit. Why didn't you tell her, Alice? Well, I didn't feel like it. The White Rabbit was boring. I had the feeling that telling her anything about the corpse sitting with us wouldn't help me much. He saved me from the dungeon. In a dark, dank place, a hat's not enough for the cold. Dungeons here aren't for keeping, but for killing. I see. Let's commit... What does that even mean? Les Majestes. Okay, and how do you pronounce that?
We are looking at her French vocabulary, so make sure to stay tuned. Actually said the term meaning to do wrong offense against the dignity of les majestés.
Les Majestés. Okay. Is an offense or defamation against the dignity of a ruling head of state, traditionally a monarch, but now more often a president. Les Majestés. Can't say I've ever heard that before in my life, but surely the Red Queen will forgive us for piecing her together. I much prefer this Mad Hatter. No, Alice, this is much closer to blasphemy. You have no choice but to beg the wrathful god for forgiveness, don't you know? I couldn't help but think of Osiris, the judge of the dead, cut to pieces by his own brother. Even a god king, rather god queen, could be chopped up and rendered helpless. Tutors would be proud of me for remembering. Is that so? I'll be good working with you, Hatter. I offered a hand to shake. Seeing her hesitation, I expected her to reject my outstretched hand, but she instead grabbed my finger with an expression filled with uncertainty. I thought that she would try to pull my finger off. However, she only gripped me weakly and shook it up and down before letting go once more. She was a bit gloomier for the time after. Night fell and another day ended. What did I dream of? I must have forgotten. Only 2 more limbs and a head remained. I continued on my adventure to collect the Red Queen so that I could finally meet her and find a way back home. Step, step, step. I walked around this upside-down world. In between my explorations of Wonderland, I chatted with the Hatter and she made a certain inquiry. What do you want to go back to at home? What indeed? Alice, what was waiting for you at home? I counted off my fingers. 2 sisters, 2 cats, a large empty home, books, and tutors. With my sisters Laurie and Edie, I was not particularly close. The older Lorina and the younger Edith, intelligent Lorina and precocious Edith, they seemed to live in their own world apart from Alice. I preferred the cats, a white cat and a black cat. The former was cute, a little beauty like the White Queen, and the latter a little devil. As for the books, our library seemed endless. We had so many books that I could drown. Maybe a pile had collapsed on me and I was dying, suffocating under the pages so terribly that I fell into Wonderland. The tutors would be so mad. But the books were ruined. I winced at a phantom stinging the back of my legs. Poor ruler, I could already see it go red. That was my world, a boring, normal, plain world where animals didn't talk and corpses didn't move, where I hadn't needed to think of much at all.
I was Alice, and that place was Alice's place. I fiddled with my fingers, grasping for the correct expression to wear. A smile. A smile was always safe. I'll be off then. Step, step, step. I traversed about this place, which was not Alice's place. My place. I was walking around searching for clues for where the next limbs or even head could be when I heard the sound of conversation. Oh! I followed the noise and found the oddest pair, a rabbit and a cat. Asked the Hatter. Hatter, the Mad Hatter. She's more cuckoo than the bird, a real nuisance. The only silver lining is how now that rat and hare are out of the way, she's become more of a recluse. The bird's more like in cone. Precocious? Oh, we're combining things now. Okay. My ears are still ringing from that time we had to pull peasants off the street to sing for royal guests. Thank you. Thank you. What an odd pair, a rabbit and a cat. The courts have stopped working, the kingdom's falling into anarchy. We got fooled on the ground left and right. Up and down too. Shut up, you damn cat. You fucking criminal pretending to be a cat. Excuse me! The rabbit is swearing. What the If you weren't so busy, I'd send the cars to chain you up and throw you back into the dungeon where you belong. Scary threats from a rabbit. Listen up. Your name's still on top of the list for execution, cat. Don't think you can do whatever you want. Now I've got to... Alice! The white rabbit made a puking sound. The blood drained from her face when she met my eyes. Hello. Did it interrupt the conversation? No, not at all. Hello, Alice. I hope we weren't too loud. The cat and I were just making some small talk. How have you been? Well enough. And you? Well enough as well. Well, what about me? Well, are you well? It depends. I'm Cat. The cat's punchline met silence. Are you two friends? No. Yes. Our circles rarely overlap. We only happened to meet and talk today by coincidence. I'm hurt, Bunny. I thought we were friends. Cheshire Cat, please refrain from giving me unsolicited nicknames. Bunny. You two seem to get along. No, not really. They didn't seem to get along at all. I just like how the white rabbit thought that she could lie straight to my face about what they were talking about before. Lie. That was what the Queen's coaches ought to do. Hilarious. After a short three-way chat, the white rabbit pulled me to the side for a private conversation. I have an invitation for you, Alice. The white rabbit reached into her coat, retrieving an envelope from an inner pocket. She held it out to me. The Duchess has invited you to her endless party. If you're interested in attending, it is and will always be held at her manor. It is and will always be. Endless party. I took the outstretched invitation. When is it? On and on indefinitely. Ever since Her Majesty has gone missing, the Duchess has been holed up in a manor holding a grand ball day and night. If I didn't know about that, I would think that she was celebrating. She wouldn't be so foolish. I see. Thank you for the invitation. Placing an oddly familiar wax seal upon the envelope, I fiddled with the invitation in my hands. I wonder where I had seen it before. I live to serve, Alice. What a relief. A burden has lifted off my shoulders now that this invitation is delivered. If it pleases you to attend, I hope you have an enjoyable time. The Duchess certainly knows how to throw parties. And the nobility of Wonderland, how to party. I tucked the invitation away. Is there anything else? No, that is all. I won't bother you any further. Please excuse me, Alice, and have a nice day. Sure. Mrs. F-word. Pulling her hat a few times, she made her way away, and soon was out of sight. And off she goes. We're talking about something too, the White Rabbit. She only cares about the Mad Queen. I've got a little secret about the Rat Queen, just a bit of gossip. Do you want to hear? Certainly. I was in a bit of a stump trying to find the rest of the Red Queen.
The first 2 pieces came along quite easily, as if delivered on a silver platter, but now I had to find some more clues. I waited for the cat to speak again, glancing at the flickering tail. She gestured for me to come closer. When I moved in, she flicked me sharply on the forehead, causing me to recoil in surprise and stumble back.
I never said I would say. Try finding me later, Alice.
Before I could respond to her provocation, she disappeared into thin air, leaving a grin floating before me for a short moment more. I mean, she did give us a small smile earlier.
That is, if you can.
With a flicker, the grin too vanished. What did the rabbit call her again, Alice? I ran my fingers through my bags and sighed. Looking around, I was alone on my search again.
Oh, listen. Small, just a small one to start off with.
I do want to check out the party at some point. But I'm gonna do that another time. No, we're doing... we're gonna go search for the Cheshire. We do the party the other time. I couldn't leave the cat's matter alone. Thinking of her taunting flick, I had no idea where she could be, for she always appeared and disappeared as she pleased. I had a quick chat with the hatter to find out. Are you acquainted with the Cheshire cat? Cheshire?
She's scary. Always is up in the trees.
She's usually... She's usually around the northern end of the forest.
The cat always says she has business, so she can't stay for tea. Even though I never invited her. Yes, we're acquaintances, but definitely not friends. If you're looking for that cat, don't bring her back here. We'll on seats as is. Next thing you know, you have to be chopped up to fit in a teapot. Ta-ta!
3 of 1 gave me a jaunty wave. Taking the hatter's words, I started off to explore the forest north. I walked down many twists and turns, stumbling across uneven ground. The path was rougher here and the foliage thicker. I found not another living being in sight, no cats, no others. After a while, I reached a place with 2 signs pointing opposite directions. One had cliff, and the other not a cliff. I let out a chuckle that they were straightforward enough signs, but I couldn't see where they led past bushes blocking beyond the arrows. The ring of a small bell.
The ring of a small bell?
Sorry. The ring of a small bell entered my ears, followed by the clatter of metal shackles. Cheshire cat. I received no response. Accompanying me here was only the breeze that would sometimes hit the leaves of the trees around me. I heard a soft rustling noise, but when I looked toward the sound, I saw nothing. I tilted my head to look further upward and... Oop! The world shifted. The air was pushed out my lungs. A black and orange blur crashed down on me with great momentum from the sky, slamming me to the ground. If my head had hit a different way, my skull would have been a cracked egg on the ground. I moved just in time to harshly bang my shoulder instead. I thought I'd get it done in one shot. Blur, the Cheshire cat, filled my spinning field of view. She wrapped both her hands around my neck, digging into her sharp nails. My left arm flickered in and out of existence, as if it wasn't really there, creating an unbalanced pressure about my throat. The grip tightened, drawing blood. Oh! I couldn't breathe. She squeezed even tighter. I tried to pry her fingers off with my own. My twitching hands clawed at her constricting grip and even scratched my own neck. More than the pain of the flesh wounds, I was going lightheaded from the lack of air. Just barely forced off my neck. I wheezed, coughing to catch my breath. She grabbed my collar, grip on the left, flickering in and out, and slammed me back to the ground after lifting me up a little. What? I couldn't even ask why she was doing this as vertigo overwhelmed me. Kicking and flailing randomly, I managed to push her off for a moment. I had to reorient myself, get to my feet, just roll away from her somehow. Which way? Not a cliff! Or cliff. Wait. Ah, okay. Cliffside? Because I'm assuming there's not actually the cliff there. I don't trust these signs. I tumbled through the bushes in a direction labeled as cliff. The signs around here had nonsense written on them many times more than not. As I expected, my chosen direction had no cliff inside. I shakily got to my feet and watched the cat do so as well. She immediately lunged at me again. This time, I was more prepared. I kneed her in the stomach as she approached, grabbing her right shoulder and twisting while holding my foot on hers. Forcing her arm down, I heard a slight cracking noise and made her fall to the ground with a thump. Just in case, I kicked her away a bit. Her body was light like a cat. I'm waiting for an explanation. She started to fade away, but I stepped on her before she could get away. After a quick struggle, she relented and got up to her feet without any further fading. The cat snarled, dusting off her body. I hadn't realized who you were before. My cloak may have a hood, but you can see my face many times already, Cheshire Cat. One lens twisted up in time. That sort of logic doesn't work here. It's mad, all mad. You might be Alice, but who is Alice? Well, that's the question we have to ask. No, actually, we're asking who the Red Queen is. To start with, you don't know anything. Do you even know who you are, Alice? I'm Alice, that is all. That was my sole truth. But who in the world is that?
Alice! Alice! Who the fuck is that? Alice! Alice!
An outsider, a temporary visitor. Just about figured out the most important part. If you figured it out, I don't suppose you'd tell me.
You are...
She pressed her hand against her hand.
Somehow you're much too similar to the Mad Queen. About the Mad Queen, you've been looking for her, but let me tell you this, she's been dead for a while now.
Amanda's Returns Alice would The Amanda's Returns Alice actually got along well with her Cheshire, I think.
Although I think you should already know. I can't put it into words for some reason, maybe it's just the way you look at the world, but you're definitely the same type of person.
In which way? Are you just trusting some gut feeling, some delusion that I might be the same as someone whom I've never met? Or as you say, someone who's long dead?
This world can't afford another Red Queen, not even the chance of one.
She vanished, taking a chance in our conversation. Criminals needed to be locked up. I looked all around, hearing the faintest sound of her shackles telling me that she was nearby, but I could not see her actual presence.
So why don't you do me a favor, Alice? Just go ahead and die.
Voice stands to the end formlessly. You have no qualification to enact your form of justice, Cat.
That really is just like her to say.
She appeared behind me and attacked again. I fell to the ground to tussle once more. She clawed me a few times, but I gradually gained the advantage. The cat favored her right arm, rather her left arm acted transient, coming in and out of existence, forcing her to avoid relying on me. My handicap forced her to falter more than my now numb shoulder did me. She fought like an animal. To be fair, she was an animal. Biting, clawing, and all the like, she came at me with the intent to kill. We continued till we were both bloodied and bruised. I punched her straight in the face, causing her to bite her tongue and choke up a mouthful of bread. Her head bounced on the ground, throwing her next moves into disarray. I hit the cat again. And again. Doing this with my bare hands wasn't exhilarating as much as it was just a matter of fact. I decided that I preferred this new sense out of my hand. I noticed that her right arm was stitched on. The arm felt familiar, as if it didn't belong to the Cheshire Cat. Alice, that cat, was also a thief. I wanted that arm. Ooh. 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 I grabbed hold of the Cheshire Cat's right arm and pulled. The cat screamed. The arm creaked. Be quiet for a bit, won't you? As I pulled, I heard a myriad of tearing and ripping noises, sounds that human flesh should not make. She screamed herself hoarse, shaking under me. Feeling her erratic gasps, I figured that she could barely breathe. Isolated, crying. From the gurgling I heard from my throat, I guessed that she must have bitten fully through her tongue. I dug my fingers into the arm even more harshly to wrench it off. Slowly but Slowly but steadily, I removed the arm from the cat through brute force. With a final squelch, the arm popped off from where it had been attached. The cat also stopped making noise around our tongue. Blood splattered all over me, dirtying my clothes and a limp I sought to retrieve. Ew! The demon horns are on the chibi model. Really a little annoying. The rat dripped all over the grass around us. I sat on her prone body for a moment to rest. Looking at my handiwork, I wondered if perhaps I had gone a little far. However, it was better to get trouble out of the way. I wobbled to my feet. Oh, you want a posture check for this? Okay. I kicked the body, ascertaining that she was unconscious. Holding the arm in one hand, I dragged the cat along the ground. I left 2 trails of red behind me, one from the cat and one from the recently detached limb. In the direction labeled not a cliff was a cliff. What a convenient garbage disposal spot. I held the cat's body as close to the cliff's edge as I could. Placing the arm on the ground to free up my hands, I lifted her and flung off the cliff. I knew she was disposed of. This game is free to play, by the way. Yes. Now there was no more Cheshire cat. I picked up the severed right arm. The limb appeared different now that it was detached from the cat. The broken shackle about its wrist fell off without me having to do anything. Alice, Alice, did you recognize this arm? Yes, I answered. This was the Red Queen's arm. A thought of pain burst through my head. I did not know why I knew, and amidst my agony, I did not have the heart to care. This woman is now a murderer! I mean, she doesn't remember about anything else, so who's to say she wasn't a murderer before this? I stumbled, clutching my head. The world warped and blurred around me. I felt dizzy looking at the distorted landscape, or perhaps my dizziness itself distorted the landscape into an undulating thing that made me want to vomit. As my adrenaline drained, the results of the fight began to show themselves. This game actually does have some shaking screen business going on, but I turned that off. So I don't know if we already hit a scene where the screen would be shaking because I turned that off. Accessibility settings for the win! You know, Amnesia made a different person. She's a murderer twice now. Yay! As my adrenaline drained, the results of the fight began to show themselves. My whole body felt sore. The raging headache pounding at my skull would not subside. Black and red began to fill my vision. Oh. The ground shifted beneath my feet. Maybe... Falling. Alice was falling. My world turned to darkness, and all I heard was laughter. I slowly opened my bleary eyes to the sky. A terrible headache battered my skull. I felt as if I had forgotten something very important. So disoriented I was, I had no idea where I was. I patted around me and noticed that I still had the limp I just retrieved with me. My head hurt. Hearing footsteps, I pushed myself up to a sitting position and saw her. Hatter. Looking around, I found that I was at the Hatter's place. I started to talk only for my throat to feel like sandpaper. Each time I blinked, my eyelids grew heavy again. A chill ran through my whole body. Uncomfortable, that was all I could say I felt. Although I had experienced quite a bit since coming to Wonderland, I had not thought I would catch a cold. Certainly that fight with the cat had battered me up. Don't speak, Alice, you're burning up, so no tea for you today. It must have still been tea time, for it was always tea time. However, today, the Hatter decided to put the tea aside, even at tea time, for the sick me. She brought a cup of water to my lips, tilting it for me to drink. I drank and choked. Puffing and sputtering, I felt her wipe away the water that had spilled. If you drink too quickly, you drown. She handed me the cup directly, fingers just barely avoiding mine, but also grasping the cup firmly till she knew that I wouldn't drop it. Drink water slowly, Alice. I've got to get something off the stove. Seeing that I had the cup in hand, she hopped off in the direction of the stove. Last time you took something off the stove, and I did not do what you said, you killed me. So, I thought back to when we first met. At the time, the thing on the stove had been a hammer, so I hoped that she would bring back something more pleasant. I sipped from the water cup and waited, setting it aside once I finished. She returned with a bowl of porridge in hand. Sitting down next to me, she scooped up a spoonful, not a handful. A spoonful of porridge and blew it lightly to cool it down. As the porridge temperature settled, she moved the spoon toward my mouth. I instinctively opened my mouth like a baby bird. I can eat myself. I would rather you not cannibalize yourself. She fed me porridge, spoonful by spoonful. Once the porridge was finished, she put the bowl away and gave me another cup of water. While letting me sip the water, she wiped away the sweat on my forehead. You're good at taking care of people. Really? I've never quite had... My words drifted off into silence as I thought back to what little I had to say about taking care of others and being taken care of. Hatter, the limb. I'll put it away for you. You know me so well, Hatter. I could barely keep my eyes open. Rest well. The Hatter placed a cool, trembling hand on my forehead. Then into the realm of hypnos I fell.
After a few days of good rest and the Hatter's care, I recovered to full health. I hadn't been so sick in years. Thank you, Hatter. What for? Don't linger too long at this crowded place. Off you go. Don't you have some body parts left to find, Alice? So I do. Seeing me once more healthy, she shooed me away. The Red Queen was nearly assembled, missing only a head and a fourth limb. Onward I continued with my search so that she could send me home. I took out the invitation that the White Rabbit had delivered to me. Running my fingers against the paper of the envelope and the imprint on the wax seal, some sort of animal, I tore the invitation open. Inside I found a card and read it to myself. Alice, the Duchess requests the honor of your presence at her ball. Today, tomorrow, time eternal. Duchess's estate, the manor. You are required to bring a companion. Flipping cut over, I noticed something of a crudely drawn map. I followed the lines on the map and somehow pinpointed where I was in relation to the manor. I held nothing to bring to a tea party, nor did I have a readily available guest. I pondered about whether I should go or not, seeing as that I could put it off indefinitely, but with the Red Queen's part still missing, perhaps someone there would know. A duchess should have been close to the Queen, for example. That at least the tutors had mentioned. As for the +1, my mind wandered to my few human acquaintances in Wonderland. I don't know, Hatter again? I returned to the Hatter who was having her usual tea time and invited her. Hatter, won't you accompany me to a ball? I rather won't. Alice, did you have to request it that way? I'll trade you a favor. Favor for a favor. If you come to the ball with me, I can do something for you. Take some pity, Alice has no friends. No friends, no pets, no siblings, no one, none. Your favors have flavor like butter. I would say I have at least one of the above. What sort of favor would you offer me, Alice? A limb, a tongue, a heart? Alice, you don't have anything that I want that I can't get myself. A cup for your sandwich, Alice. Here's your salt. I passed her the paper. She slid the salt and a cup of tea over to me. Fiddling with the salt container, I tasted a spoonful of humiliation atop my tongue. I have no friends. She says she has no friends. She really has no friends. You have no friends? What am I? March's favorite old buttersticks? Well, if you would. If you would? He says it. I would really rather not. A hatter doesn't matter around the nobles who just like to flatter. I'm not good with nobles after all, I'm just a hatter. For a second her voice dipped. Hatter's better if you're all alone. I merely heard the hatter's low words. And it's also still tea time. How can we go off to a ball when we've yet to finish afternoon tea? I started tea, watching as I slumped into my seat and played with the salt. I'd rather appreciate you. My heart skipped a beat. Why? Alice, just why did you find that slight smile somewhat charming? Clink. The sound of my teaspoon hitting against the brim of my cup broke me out of my thoughts. I looked down. Putting the cup to my mouth, I took a sip and found that I had put salt into my tea. Terrible. One time. I've probably told the story before. One time I prepared strawberries. And I do like putting a little bit of sugar on my strawberries just to make it taste just a tad more sweet. Yeah. Guess what? Did not take the sugar. Took the salt. Only noticed afterwards. Still ate them. Not recommended. Whatsoever. I'll accompany you, Alice. When is this ball? Anytime. It's not very nice of you to say it's not tea time here, then. Not very good of you to be biased against tea time, don't you know? We finished off our tea and sandwiches. After a few more sips, I sneakily dumped the salted tea behind my armchair. I had to put the dormouse and marsh hare away. After lingering at the tea table for a few moments longer, we got up to leave. She waved goodbye to the puppets, hesitant as if scared of leaving this place. Then we used the shoddy map on the back of the invitation card to find our way to the Duchess's place. After a walk, we arrived at the manor. That is a very big place. I had to shook her legs as with just a bit of walking and tired her out. Then again, the bags under her eyes conveyed that she hadn't slept well for a while. A guard stopped us at the entrance. Halt. Please show your invitation card. I handed the guard the card. He looked it over, glancing at me and the hatter before returning it to me. The guard gestured and led us inward a few steps through the entranceway. To enter, guests must provide an arm. The arm will be returned to you whenever you wish to leave the party. An arm? A limb? The guard nodded. Please provide an arm. Uncharacteristically, the hatter said nothing the entire time to the guard. She warily looked at his sheathed sword and shuffled behind me.
You may not enter without providing an arm. Oh! Well, I mean, I do have an arm to offer, I guess. If I get it back at the end. I crossed my arms and tapped my feet as the guard repeated his blocking words a handful of times more. When the thought of offering my own limb came up, I decided against it. As such, we needed to find another arm to give.
Well, I'm allowed to suggest this. We do have a spare arm back at the tea table. Her Majesty surely wouldn't mind, don't you think?
Yes, indeed. She had no tongue to speak otherwise. With that, we made a trip back to the Hatter's place. The Hatter hopped over to the dog cage we had set by the Red Queen. Popping it open, she pulled out a severed arm and quickly stamped the door shut. The limb flailed in the Hatter's hands till she unceremoniously tossed it to me. This was the Red Queen's arm.
I never quite thought that I would accompany Her Majesty to a ball. It gives me shivers.
To me, it felt so obvious that this was the Red Queen's arm. I wonder if someone will recognize the arm. It could certainly be in a good deal of trouble. And I would prefer not to have the trouble of getting the arm back if someone tries to take it away.
They won't with Wonderland. They wouldn't want to recognize it anyhow.
I've been here for a while, but still this logic fascinates me. Wonderland. We took a tea break. According to the Hatter, it was still tea time after all.
Shall we go on to the ball, milady?
Although I'm afraid I've got no pumpkin carriage, no glass slippers for you.
You're charming enough as is. Lead the way, Alice.
Arm in hand, we returned to the... Arm in hand! We returned to the Duchess's manor. The guard greeted us with the same phrases, asking for an arm as the entrance fee, to which we responded by handing over the arm that we had retrieved. He glanced at both of us, noting that neither of us were missing a limb. The guard handed it off to a servant, who put it into a sealed box and took it away for safekeeping nonetheless. You may enter, esteemed guests.
Thank you for welcoming in.
I mean, it only said we had to give an arm, not our own arm. We arrived at the Duchess's ballroom. Although the hostess was nowhere to be found, servants milled around the floor with refreshments for the guests. Ooh! A quartet performed in the front, food set at the tables to the side of the room. All around were faceless people dressed up like clowns. Faceless people, they were uninteresting people. I sent a few glances our way as we came without much fanfare. Unfair? Already I didn't like them. Perhaps it was their beady pig-like eyes. For all that they were faceless, I saw only clowns and swine. I approached the group, thinking to gain some information. Hello.
Hello to you as well.
The guests seemed wary upon seeing me, but showed a displeased reaction upon laying eyes on the Hatter, who had reluctantly followed me along.
And the peasant. Which one was it? Ah, the one with the vermin. Where are your little raggedy friends? The rat and the hare. The Red Queen's little pet was happy to see them gone. The rabbit's always been like that. Rather than the rutting, she likes the cutting. Ugh, an animal in such a position I really do not approve. Her Majesty likes it. Well, she's gone now. You shouldn't say that. Speak of the devil and she will come. Devil indeed. It's a shame that the White Queen's always been a fool. Pretty bird, but as a ruler? The Red Queen liked her well enough, and certainly from the rumors, she's done something quite pleasant. For us, you mean. Don't jinx it.
The group stage whispered amongst themselves as they pointed to the Hatter like they were looking at a spectacle. The Hatter at the time was simply staring off into space.
Is a lunatic glaring at us? Well, this is a problem with peasants. Staring at us? Uncomfortable. I can't believe the thing rolls around with the animals. The animals are all gone. That's the least that Her Majesty's done for us in a petty red rain of pretty red rain. Let's get away from the filth. The stench of vermin is unbearable. I must ask the Duchess about who can be led into a ballroom.
The servant passed by with a tray full of champagne. One of the guests removed 2 flutes from the tray and offered me one with a slur in her words. A slur from the alcohol, or a slur because you guys discriminate against animals in this kingdom?
Have some alcohol. Did you have some business with us?
No. I shook my head and turned away. Drinks should be shared only in pleasant company. Let's take our leave from these people, Hatter. Chitter-chatter, chitter-chatter. I noticed the other guests making snide comments on the Hatter and giving her the side-eye while stepping back from me, of all people. Saying those things to my person, someone who was mine, my Hatter, they deserved punishment, capital or otherwise.
I was right, Alice.
What a shame that I had no such power. We moved to the sides where the food was, seeing as few people lingered by refreshments for long. The two of us picked up some cakes and snacks. As I tasted it, I couldn't help but feel that the Hatter made better food. A tingly sensation spread through my body as I ate. Hatter, what is this? My voice changed pitches as I talked. At one moment I sounded squeaky as a mouse, and at the next as low as an elephant. Me too. Playing with the odd refreshments, we found ourselves speaking like animals. Meow. Mama? Oh. I wonder what she said. She looked so pleased as if she had made the world's greatest joke that had just gone unheard. Next we tried the pudding. Discomfort filled my heart as if something dirty was coming out with each pulse, with each squeeze of the ventricle pushing blood through the aorta. I hate this. I hate you. I don't know how I'll deal with a bedlamid dog like you. I really, really, really hate you. It's red, the red's full. I kill. Dad is so alone. I had to block her words and stuffed a cookie into her mouth. Oh. What needs to be done has to be done, but once it's done, we should certainly purge. It's been such a long time, I've got to punish that little bird. And you had will make a good decoration. There's not a worthy soul inside. You're a lunatic and a fool. Putting a hand over my mouth and clenching my jaw, I shut up as well till the distortion in my heart disappeared. I didn't mean to say any of that. The pudding must have twisted our words. I as well. How did Alice? As we experienced the strange food, the other guests continued to mingle and dance. This was a ball, so ball things they did. The music stopped along with the chatter. It was at this time that the Duchess made her appearance. She was a featureless woman who hid her face. Instinct told me that she was ugly, yet I could not see anything, not disfigurement, no beauty. She existed as a Duchess, but could not be seen. She was only perceived. What? Tonight we have a special gift to be given to a single guest. She gestured and a servant behind her came out with an item hidden under a red cloth. A hushed whispering ran through the ballroom as everyone guessed at what could be hidden underneath that would make the Duchess consider it special. We are holding a chess tournament, a usual game that ends when the king has fallen, even here where the king has long gone. Of course, the winner will receive the prize. Ah! The servant removed the cloth. All around the guests uttered a collective gasp. What, you may ask? Why, it could only be our dearest Majesty's leg. It was a severed leg, the Red Queen's left leg. From the looks of the limb, it could fit perfectly onto the torso stump sitting at the Hatter's place. Let's see here. No, I mean, I get it. I do understand, but the way this is written is a little makes me second guess whether I understand the sentence correctly a lot of times. In a good way. May the best strategist win. I don't know how to play chess. The Duchess clapped. The servants began to move out, setting up tables and chess sets in a matter of minutes. With the matchup list created, the tournament started. As I made my moves with Hatter, I thought back to all the chess I had played for the tutors. They would be relieved that at least I hadn't forgotten anything and everything. Losing each time had been a painful ordeal, so I too was glad that I remembered. The Hatter had a brilliant strategic mind. I watched as he flung a queen into a crowd of pawns only for it to be eaten alive. Most of the time. We made our way to the finals where we met with the last opponent not at the table, but in a cleared out space in the ballroom with a large chessboard overlaid. The last opponent was the Duchess. Around her lined up stood 1/3,000 soldiers dressed up in black like chess pieces. What is this? Why, human chess. Chess is an imitation of bloody war. In this land without war, we must take steps to make life more interesting. That is what our dearest Majesty proclaimed. One of you two have to take the role of a piece, and otherwise I'll provide the other pieces for you to play with. I exchanged glances with the Hatter. Even now I couldn't understand what went on in those eyes, but I had already decided. Maybe I didn't want to see her potentially get hurt, as no one here cared for the life of a Hatter. Oddest Otter, what a thought to have. I rather liked her. I will take the role of a piece. The role of the king or the role of the queen? I'd say... Wait, let me save this. Queen. I don't know much about chess, but queen seems like a safe bet. I
chose to take the queen's piece role, for the queen had the greatest power on the board. I donned the fake white crown and was given a sword. Our white pieces shuffled in and took their positions on the board. Soon enough, the chessboard was set. A human-sized version of the strategy game unfolded. The header started with the first move. Clang, clash. One by one, the pieces on the board fell, almost like dominoes. Perhaps knight to a... No, a piece on the board cannot speak. We are the players and you are but a game piece. Finally, the queen came into play. I played with a sword in my hand.
Yes! Yes! I believe in her! I believe the hatter can treat me... It's at most of the time, not every time.
The hilt rolled comfortably in my palm, pleasant yet strange, as if I didn't use a sword much. I didn't, but was still perfectly fine with committing acts of violence with one. Now, swordsmanship was one thing that the tutors hadn't bothered teaching. After all, it wasn't fitting for a lady. I really should have, as it turned out that I was quite good at cutting things down to some short exhibition blows. The hatter directed me across the board. I attacked as told. Warm, sticky red sprayed all over me. What do you call yourself these days again? Alice. I see. We moved around the board in a perfect match, letting our other pieces back me up, and cornered the Duchess's black king in no time. Checkmate. Checkmate. I wondered if I had killed a king before. The Duchess clapped her hands in congratulations. Servants cleared the floor, wiping it down and made it once more sparkly clean, as if red had not just been spilled in a human facsimile of a game. No, facsimile. No, what the fuck did I just say? Facsimile, yeah.
Facsimile? Smile!
Came along with a wet towel for me to wipe away anything that had gotten on me during the match. Congratulations, you're a true pair of mastered strategists.
Sister! Sadistic! So what?
With this, the competition has concluded and you two are the winners. Would you like to take your prize now?
Yes.
The hatter bobbed her head up and down rapidly. The Duchess gestured her servant over. Oh dear's Majesty's lack. Do take care of it while lest she come back and has you punished for disrespecting the crown. She took the lack from the servant and handed it to me. I hope you enjoy the rest of the ball. The Duchess left again with the servant following after her. She seemed to have enjoyed the chess tournament. Just as quickly as she left, the chess setters were cleared away. The guests returned to eating, drinking, and dancing. Let's leave. She had no intention to stay, neither had I, having accomplished the unexpected boon of finding a piece of the Red Queen. We found a servant to leave and were redirected outward. He retrieved a sealed box with our entrance fee and handed it over. We exited the building and came to a garden. We had taken a wrong turn. Looking around, we spotted an exit at the far end of the garden, and the hatter made a move to leave. I called out to stop her, extending a hand. We didn't have a chance to dance. Won't you give me the honor of one dance, Hatter? I won't. Maybe just one with you, Alice. I can dance. I'm dexterous with my hands, but not so much with my feet. Hatter doesn't fit well with these things. Isn't that a problem? She hesitantly stretched out her hand, fingers hovering over mine. Don't worry, let me lead. I took her hand and we danced. Humming in place of an instrumental quartet, I led her in steady steps, ignoring the way she stumbled over my feet. Left, right, left, right. Perhaps this was the most enjoyable dance I've had yet. I twirled the head around. She was so light. Alice. Alice. Hatter, you might not be so bad after all. She made an expression like she wanted to cry. I rather like you, Alice. Only Alice. I rather liked her too. I gave her another twirl and she let go. I reached out my fingers, but she moved her hand away. I had to hop back with a skip and spin. Thus she stood by her lonesome. Close your eyes, Alice. I did as she said. I felt her roughly stuff the leg into my arms. I heard a faint tapping noise reminiscent of footsteps moving away from me, and then there was nothing. I waited and waited and waited. Alice, how long did you want to wait for her? I waited a long time, clutching the leg in my hands. When I opened my eyes, the hatter was nowhere to be seen. Did she leave me behind? Although I walked around the garden, she was nowhere to be found. I decided to leave as well. Taking one last pass through the garden, I made my way through the exit. A sudden vertigo struck me.
I must have had a long day. I reasoned as I held a hand to my forehead while trying to steady myself. My brain spun like a sloshed up pit of mud. Discomfort in my heart returned. I leaned back against a tree to take a break, looking upward. Eyelids flickering, I wondered if the sky had always looked so far away. My free hand popped against the bark, slid downward unconsciously. I closed my eyes for a moment. Darkness. Oh! At some point I made my way back to the Hatter's place. Hello, Hatter. I handed over the limp I had just obtained. At least from what I could tell from the passage of time, it should have been only recently that I had taken this limb from its past owner. I didn't know. The Hatter took the limb and threw it into the dog cage with all the others. With this, you've gathered all of Her Majesty's limbs. Oh, so I have. You look terrible right now, Alice. Again. Like us. I'm tired. Take a nap. Tea time isn't going anywhere, not unless time goes back its severed hat and walks away, don't you think? We can always talk a little later. Thank you. I slumped back into my armchair, sinking into the oddly scented cushions. Good night, Alice. This may be the last. I almost feel a little sorry, but Domas, March, I won't stop. I didn't hear what the Hatter said afterward over the raging white noise of my headache. My vision blurred, eyes becoming watery. Eyelids heavy, I fell asleep. My last what? Then I was dreaming, falling into the dream. Tick, tock, tock. I dreamt of a throne. A dark and terrible throne, so horribly cold. It was such a lonely throne, but the eye on the throne was arrogant and happy to be alone. No, I thought even she had someone she loved. A beautiful person. Yes, the person she loved was a beautiful person, so fragile and beautiful that she wanted to slowly tear off that person's wings. But her love was wrong. If she wasn't happy, then she would lose everything. Alice, you were exactly this person. No, I wasn't, was I? As I opened my mouth to speak, blood began to leak through my lips. The only sound that came out was an empty gurgle. Were you happy? No. I could not talk. I could not taste. Even though red dripped down my chin, I felt as if my tongue had been snipped out. Blood choked me. Gasping in nothing but liquid, I grasped at my throat. Alice, I was drowning in this dream. You were never happy. Never. When I awoke, I forgot all that I dreamt of. I opened my eyes to an empty feeling in my mind. Disoriented, I nearly rolled off of my armchair in which I had gone to sleep. I sat up and stifled a yawn. Stifled? Rubbing the bridge of my nose. I blinked. I blinked again, chasing away a haze. I felt as if I had forgotten something very important. In the meanwhile, the Hatter brought over a decorated cake, much more elaborate than the usual snacks at her eternal tea time. It was a cake with cream and fruits, 2-layered even, with flowers and pictures carved up with food ingredients. I could only call it a pretty cake. Just in time for tea, Alice? As I got up from my armchair, the Hatter lightly pushed me back down. My behind landed on the cushion with a soft bounce. It seemed I could not but sit. She stared at me before sticking a handful of candles into the cake, lighting them with a match. Flame glowed on the head of the match for just a few seconds. After settling the candle, she began clapping her hands to an unsteady rhythm. Happy unbirthday to you! Happy unbirthday to you! Happy unbirthday! Dear Alice. A terribly offbeat, off-balanced song she sang, and her voice warped as she said my name today. A certain darkness flickered in her mismatched eyes. Happy unbirthday to you! I didn't understand. I couldn't understand. I simply watched as she finished the song with a small clap and pushed the cake a bit closer to me. What is this for, Hatter? Certainly today was not my birthday. Didn't I tell you? Don't you remember? You got a special prize for bringing me all 4 limbs, Alice. Since it's not your birthday, it must be your unbirthday. All 364 days of the year. Picking up a knife, she cut out a slice of cake and slid it over to me. I caught it in a hurry, and soon enough she poured me a cup of tea that too came rushing over. I noticed a hammer on the table right next to the cake knife. She gestured, urging me to have a taste. The calming scent of the tea wafted to my nose and mixed with sweet milky cream. The celebratory cake slice looked so charming I almost felt it a shame to eat. I picked up the cup of tea and took a sip. He is not divisible. Yeah. This is my favorite. Wow, we're 25% closer to knowing when this is. Hell. After enjoying some tea, I started on the cake. As I ate, I had to place the box before me.
Open your present, Alice. Chop it open. Smash it open.
Any way you'd like to. I surveyed the box. An odd and plain box, just big enough to store an animal. Oh. Sorry, hold on. Ugh. Oh, you like hiccups? From the outside, I could not tell what might lie inside. I cracked open a small gap, afraid to disturb what could be hidden inside. No, yee hee hee hoo 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 hoo. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Shadows block my vision. But why does she have the hammer next to her again? If she's actually giving it to me properly this time. Please don't hit me over the head. Ah. Shadows blocked my vision. I saw nothing, but I heard a low gurgling, drowning sound. A strange and strangled voice, one that sent a chill rolling up my neck. A throbbing headache hit me again. In one go, I flung the lid off.
Ja-jang!
Ooh! Would you look at that? This time we actually get to see the face. Inside was a head. A bloodied head. Huh? A head. A woman's head. A girl's head. A head that should have been dead. A much too familiar face. A much too foreign face. I didn't quite understand what I was looking at, even as the world seemed to shift around me. Alice, you knew who that face belonged to. Alice! Whose head is this? I stumbled to my feet to back away, only to fall back into the armchair from my loss of equilibrium. This wasn't right. The face looked just like mine, just almost. I touched my neck and touched my face to make sure that I was still here. This was the Red Crane. This was Alice. This was a severed head, Alice. Whose head is this? I wanted to ask, but instead a strangled cry escaped my throat. I couldn't move my eyes away from the so-called prize that the Hatter had given to me. Blood pooled at the bottom of the box, sticky and dark. Terrible. I reached a trembling hand to touch it, but it wasn't my place to try to close her eyes or to put her to peace. The head was still moving, twisting with a squelch and squish. Its bad ragged sounds of raspy breathing echoed in my skull. I jerked my hand back and covered my ears. I couldn't look away.
Now aren't you glad you needn't find Her Majesty's head?
As if laughing at me, as if she didn't truly mean that, with an odd tilt of her voice as she spoke of the Red Queen, I had to confirm the head's owner. She walked over to the Red Queen, flinging the dog cage open, and popped the limbs onto the torso one by one. As they reattached, they began to flail and grab at the Hatter. This time she was prepared and grabbed her hammer. Hatter. With a pair of loud bangs, she hammered nails through the corpse's hands into the Red Queen's chair. Blood dripped to the ground. The hands twitched, the body writhed. Right. Okay. A ghostly pain ran up my arms as my stomach churned. I felt dizzy. What? Hatter. I discovered that I had nothing to say. Even though I always had thoughts racing through my mind, I had nothing to say. Alice, that was why you were worthless. Ask something. Anything. I touched my face to see if my lips had curled up without me thinking to. Then you want to leave this place? No, you found the Red Queen. If you have something you'd like to talk with her about, I'll let you take care of that before I proceed with my own business. She pushed the Red Queen over, chair scraping on the ground with a hideous squeal, and stopped only when I sat face to face with the head's shifting body. Taking the head out of the box, the Hatter put it onto the body. The skin and meat deformed, contorting till the pieces of neck met exactly where they should. Then it all knitted together with something unnatural crawling under the skin. I shuddered at the hollow sound made from the corpse as her throat connected. The Red Queen looked at me with dead red eyes. I didn't know what she went through, but she looked terrible. I realized that I had never asked who killed her like this, nor had I ever stumbled upon an answer the same way I had found all the limbs. This was the Red Queen. Alice, this was me. The request I'd been pondering on, the wishes to go back home, the want to ask her for help, they all flew out of my mind. This wasn't right. The face I was looking at, battered and bloodied as it appeared, was not right. I couldn't speak, but she did. Mouthing words, yet making no sound beside the hollow whistle of a crushed throat, the Red Queen began to talk without saying a thing. Time was missing, and we had to do something about that. Oh boy. Where's the tongue? I tried to find my own tongue, stumbling with a pulsing pressure in the back of my head before I could articulate my next inquiry. Where's the Red Queen's tongue? I didn't want to hear a voice, so I tore it out and fed it to the dogs. The Red Queen wasn't complete without a tongue. Although she squirmed in its chair, causing the nails to creak, it seemed like she didn't truly have a soul. Unless you were so close. The corpse looked upon us with stagnant eyes. Did that sure mean I needn't bother searching for it then? What were your intentions, Hatter? Am I the Red Queen? At this point, I still knew nothing about the Red Queen, but that she shared my face and all of the various gossips I overheard on the ruler. Alice. Looking at the Hatter's mismatched eyes, I could see what she thought for the first time. What do you think? Let me tell you a story, Your Majesty. So I was Your Majesty now. A long time ago, in this corner of Wonderland, there lived a group of 3 friends. A mouse, a hare, and a hatter. We lived far away from bustling society, usually just coming together for tea. I made hats, and they did mouse and hare things. Once we'd been dragged to perform like clowns for visitors to this kingdom, but only that once, for Her Majesty hadn't quite appreciated our lack of skill. Her Majesty ran a court of law, strict queen, some called her. A mad queen, some whispered. A tyrant, most could not even dare to say. I think the story should be predictable, don't you? We were called to court one day. Reason? Maybe only to be judged. She proclaimed us guilty and had us sentenced. Hello, cat. You have perfect, impeccable timing. Impeccable timing. My good sir. I, for no reason, received the lightest sentence of the day. I came away with my neck still intact, not knowing a thing. Thrown into prison and starved, only just that much. When I came out, the streets were filled with newly spilled blood, and 2 very familiar heads rolled my way. Crowds feasted on carrion only for even them to be swept away by the Queen's carts. No need to explain further. Perhaps you really are blind and dead. No mouse and no chair are dead. For what? Sole crime of offending our world's tyrant, and so Hatter has been all alone for a long, 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 long time. I can never forgive the Red Queen. But she went and upped and died. I let her get away like that so easily. You, who are the same entity as the Red Queen, I can't let you go, don't you understand? Hatter, for the sake of my revenge, you have to die, Alice. She spun the hammer in her hands, her face devoid of mirth as she stepped closer to me, meeting my eyes with a mismatched pair. This is my justice, Alice. Goodbye, Alice. Bye. She raised the hammer in her hand above my head. Why did she look like she was about to cry? Then I was falling. Falling. I was falling. Down this rabbit hole with no start nor end, I was falling. My skull and brain pieced itself together, twisting as if going back in time. I re-experienced the pain of having my head caved in with a hammer. I was going mad. A wetness, perhaps tears, perhaps brain matter, rolled down my face as I tried to comprehend. I should have died. I felt as if I was remembering something very important. I landed in Wonderland once more. Alice. The first person to greet me was once more the White Rabbit. I grabbed at my hat only to find no injuries, no red. No longer able to differentiate between dream and reality, I questioned if I had merely been hallucinating the whole time. Then I was falling again. I died again. Alice. Each time I fell, I came back down. Alice. It became a hazy world, a distorted world, a world that was beginning to lose its colors. Time and time again, falling. I seemed to revert the hourglass and turn back the hands of the clock, each time going into another past. Before I knew it, the rabbit had changed. Your Majesty. She was a bit more polite. Your Majesty. Perhaps a bit more cruel in her eyes, a bit less restrained with the darkness in her gut. She called out to me each and every time. Your Majesty. The rabbit was my starting point, my saving point. Falling. I kept falling uncontrollably. Falling, landing, dying, falling. I no longer felt as if I had control of even my own body anymore. My world flickered on and off. It hurt. Dying hurt. I didn't want to deal with this anymore. Alice, you had to deal with this. I didn't want to. I really didn't want to. I didn't want to deal with this anymore. Again, I fell. I felt my body on the ground.
Hazy eyes, I saw a familiar figure and heard it speak with a familiar voice as murmurs reached my ears from all around. Her face and her words, not a single thing could I make out. Before I even got the chance to see the rabbit, a growingly familiar sensation struck me. Pain, a sharp agony burned in my arms till I suddenly could not feel my fingers. Then the same came to my legs. Chop, chop, there they went, a limb or two or three or four. Off they went until suddenly I had none for myself. Soon a blade cut through my neck, sewing as it got stuck and stabbed again and again till the head finally came off and I was falling again. Drowning through the flesh clogging my throat as it all reattached, I came to a realization. Oh, I understood. Alice, what had you understood? I was done. I'd certainly gone mad. I couldn't handle this anymore. Even if I still wanted to go home, it wouldn't do me any good anyhow. Maybe this was a dream, an illusion. Just how long was I supposed to keep falling? Alice, you would never awaken from this dream. Then I was falling again. I decided to stop thinking, and only keep falling. Oh! I opened my eyes to a courtroom with an air of fear. Watching, I was simply watching through another's eyes. Sitting in the back of her head without a single meaningful thing in my mind, I was watching. Your Majesty. The body moved without me thinking to do anything. I no longer cared to do anything. The body talked without me thinking to say anything. I no longer cared to say anything. It didn't matter. If I could have, I would have stopped watching. It was not because the sights were horrific, but because I no longer wanted to deal with anything and everything, not even the matters of the Red Queen. A dog, a cat, a bird, a girl, a boy, a person who was neither, a mother, a father, an elderly. One by one they came to be judged. Some begged, some cried, some fought, some silently accepted their fates. The rabbit read out the accused crimes of show, allowing for the Red Queen to proceed. However, there existed only one result: guilty. At some point she began to laugh. At some point I began to laugh. As ruler, I have sovereignty over my citizens, and at the same time a responsibility to make this kingdom prosper. A prosperous kingdom must have law and order, do you understand? Off to the gallows. Be glad for mercy, criminal. Glory to Her Majesty for her benevolence. Hearts, bring the next one in for Her Majesty. The accused was reported by her brother-in-law for engaging in gossip and planning treason against the crown by speaking ill of Her Majesty. Simple sentence, a simply beheading for this bird. Bring her away. Hearts, the accused was caught evading taxes. She was also seen stealing from other citizens, assaulting merchants, and spreading rumors about Your Majesty's state of mind. She was only beheaded recently as the courts were unable to capture her previously. Break her legs. Your Majesty is truly brilliant. As for her sentence, cut off her arms so that she can commit crimes any longer when she reaches the afterlife, and throw her into prison to await execution by skinning. How will a cat rug look like without arms? Criminal's skin is much too rough for a good rug. Off with the cat. She seemed to think for a moment and snapped her fingers, rending the cat's arms from her body in an instant. And execute a cart who failed to catch her before. We have no need for worthless carts. Next. Next. The Red Queen. I didn't know if she was happy. Once she convinced the accused, I inadvertently began to lose track of my surroundings, only to be jolted back by a particularly interesting sentence. The accused. Before the rabbit finished speaking, the accused rushed at the Red Queen. The Red Queen gestured with her hand. An unseen power slammed the criminal down to the ground, creating a crack on the marble flooring of the courtroom. It's sumptuous. The force tore fingertip-sized meat piece by piece from the criminal, leaving it writhing on the floor as it rolled around trying to get her to stop. Have you forgotten who you belong to? The Red Queen finished once the criminal was ripped into a pile of red pulp on the ground to be swept away by the carts. I was smiling. The Red Queen was smiling. Next. The day in court continued until the courtroom was devoid of life. She worked on paperwork after court. Between stacks, she conversed with ministers who sweat nervously each time she met their beady eyes. Finishing up her important documents, she proceeded to go for a brisk walk and practice swinging a sword here and there. Bringing the Red Queen a towel and water, the rabbit asked if she wanted to visit the White Queen today, which the Red Queen decided against. Dinner time arrived soon enough. She sat in a large dining room, at the head of a long table, all alone. A sumptuous meal was served with red wine before her, but she had no one to share it with. The food tasted alright. More importantly, it had been poisoned. The chef used just a little too much so that the meat began to lose its charm and turned to mediocrity. The Red Queen called the chef over. His eyes darted around the room wildly, knowing that he had nowhere to escape. His legs shook and he fell to his knees, beginning to beg. The Red Queen took a sword from a decorative suit of armor in the room, off with his head, for daring to poison the queen. Watching as the servants cleaned away the chef's remains, she returned to her meal, which had been quickly replaced. She drank a sip of wine. Poisoned wine. The next day, she returned to the courtroom. One by one, the numbers diminished again. Even those in the jury were not spared if they made the slightest slight. The rabbit smiled with glee, writing down the numbers of... Oh my god. Let's try this one again. The rabbit smiled with glee, writing down the names of criminals who were to be executed. Not a few times she took the job herself, an axe in hand and boots squelching in blood. Actually, yeah, I think I need that hider time. 1 second. The Red Queen enjoyed her judgment court. Wonderland was her domain and its people her pieces. If they became disobedient, then she would never let them throw her possessions into disarray. Some days she didn't go, working on governance. Other days she did, working on the world's peace. These times continued until one day the Red Queen fell asleep and I was still awake. Running my fingers, I discovered I was in control. I walked over to the balcony. Seeing the ground terribly far away, I lifted myself over the balustrade and threw myself off. Air rushed past my face. Splat. Falling. I was falling again back through time. The interstice between the different times and different worlds was still as incomprehensible as before. My body knitted together from its mangled form and I returned to Wonderland. Falling, I fell straight into a table.
Good evening there!
Oh! I had returned to an iteration of the Hatter's place. Sprawled out on the table, I glanced upward and saw the familiar pair of mismatched eyes unfamiliar. Do I know you? No, not quite. Could you get off at the table? I do need to put down the tea and snacks at some point, if you understand. You appreciate that? I mean... I think they're good to have. I think they're very good to have. But I'm good, how are you doing? I also appreciate if people who make games are also like, hey, this is stuff that happens. Or it can happen. Because this is readily accessible information both when you open the game and on the Steam page, so...
I remembered.
to put it up front. It had to seem different, as if a heavy weight had yet to settle on her shoulders. I got off the table and stood awkwardly around the familiar and unfamiliar place. Oh, you woke up from a nightmare? Oh, I'm sorry. The Hatter sat down a teapot. She was preparing a tea party of sorts, causing me to realize I had never seen her do setup as things were always already on the table. What's your name? Alice. I'm Alice. You should be Hatter. Is there somewhere you need to go so badly that you nearly broke my table? No, I've nowhere. Well, why don't you take a seat? No one uses an armchair over there. Much too armchair, they said. You know how armchairs are, right? I hesitantly approached my armchair. The chair looked newer than in mine before. When I sat on it, I sank into the soft cushions. Even though it reminded me of a hammer through my soul, the chair did not belong. I clutched my chest. You aren't having tea? What time is it? This person hated me. Perhaps she did not hate me yet in the moment that we were meeting now, but she hated me all the same in the future, in my present.
Oh, thank you for the fact.
I shouldn't have cared, but my heart hurt. The clock says 50 minutes before 4. It's almost tea time. Maybe it already is. I'm waiting for March and Dormouse, so it's surely not yet tea time. Oh, we went really far back, huh? Tea time, after all, is just a state of mind. I see. You look sad, Alice. Do I? I raised my hand to my face, touching my cheek. I certainly was not smiling.
What's your favorite tea?
She retrieved a tea set
took place on a table bringing not 3 cups but 4. 1 cup and saucer was put before me. I enjoy black tea. Recently I've grown fond of Earl Grey. What about you, Hatter?
I like any tea, but I also rather like Earl Grey. I'm not sure why it's an Earl rather than a Count or Duke, but I'm sure the tea tastes best in Earl.
Speedway.
I do not know Jojo.
I've probably seen this character before, but I don't know Jojo well enough to recall who Speedwagon is. I've heard that it's named after a minister.
Well, perhaps the minister was named after a tea. Fancy that. Your name is Grey, so Her Majesty tells you to become Earl Grey.
The Hatter looked happier. A film of water built up over my vision, turning it blurry. I must have gotten something in my eyes. A hiccup bubbled up my throat. The water wouldn't stop.
Why are you crying?
Tears rolled down my cheeks as I hurriedly tried to wipe them away with my hands.
I really cannot explain.
This is so odd.
Eat cake? Do you like cake? Would you rather a sandwich or maybe something salty? If you're lacking in salt and sugar, you go a little crazy like that.
She poured me a cup of tea and passed me some cake with a set of utensils she was just getting out.
Tastes good.
Drinking the tea and eating the cake, I noticed a much more amateurish flavor than my Hatter, the future Hatter, would make. However, it tasted good, and maybe it tasted happier. My shoulders shook up and down for a while. I cried for the longest time I'd cried since I was a toddler, rubbing my eyes pink. Once my tears stopped, I cleared my throat and averted my eyes from the Hatter. Compliments to you, Hatter. Why, thank you. We sat together in a peaceful silence for a while afterward before she turned her head and exclaimed,
There they are.
A sleepy little mouse and a hare with a straw hat approached from the forest path. They looked just like the little puppets my Hatter wore often on her hands. Looking at me in curiosity, they took their seats at the table.
A guest. Looks like a pest. Don't be rude, Marge. Three's already a crowd. No room, no room.
Three's a crowd, but four's a party. If you get 5, then, well, we can think about it later. Don't make a girl cry, Marge. This is Alice. This is Marge here. This is Dormouse. Hatter poured some tea for both of them, and they began to chat, glancing toward me and taking me into the conversation, even as the ramblings devolved into nonsense. Halfway through each topic, the Dormouse seemed to snooze off and dip her little nose into her tea by accident. Did Hatter make you cry, Alice? She's a lady killer, she is. I've always known it. Dormouse, wake up for the gossip. I'm right here, Marge.
She looks like butter. It's the yellow hair. Butter. She looks a little silly, like her brain's been all churned up, but she looks like good butter.
Couldn't help but crack a slight smile at their antics.
More sunny than buttery.
Do you want butter, Alice? No, thank you, I'm quite alright.
Alice, Alice. Yeah, what's up?
Marge and Dormouse pulled me to the side for a private conversation.
Hatter seems to fancy you. Not so directly. Ah, don't raise your voice, Dormouse, shut up. It's usually my line, Marge. You can't own lines now, can you? Marge is right, the Hatter looks fondly upon you. You do seem nice. Kind of dumb. She seems nice. I still approve. I'm just saying, alright? Be kind to Hatter. Good to her, Hatter. You can't be around her forever, so you have to promise this, Alice. I have a feeling that this is very important. Swear it on a stick of holy butter.
I won't be here for very long, but no, I'll promise it. I swear on everything that could ever be precious to me that I'll treat her well if we meet again. And she's back to bed. Dormouse! We returned to the Hatter. The 4 of us continued chatting over tea. I enjoyed tea time today, I really did. Yet I didn't belong here, and didn't deserve here either. I knew that my presence would just throw everything into disarray. Finishing my tea, I stopped the Hatter from refilling my cup. I had a wonderful time today. I have to leave. This place isn't mine, but thank you for the tea again, Hatter. And you too, Marge, Dormouse. It was nice meeting you, Alice. I already knew you from the future, but I was also happy to see you. Hatter, it was a shame that my Hatter didn't feel the same way. Alice, what did you feel for the Hatter? Something precious. See you later. I wanted her to be happy. Wiedersehen. Giving her a weak wave, I left a happier Hatter. I didn't particularly have a place to go. Home, that was no longer my goal. Walking away, I wiped away the tears that welled up again. Eventually, I was falling again. I died, that much I understood. However, I seem to have forgotten how I died this last time. In a way, I knew that I couldn't keep doing this. Alice, this was your last iteration. The power letting you keep falling had already run out. The next time you wouldn't come back to Wonderland in any time. As my body pieced itself back into place, I waited for myself to stop falling. I burst back into my relative present and hit the ground softly. Laying back flat on the ground, I grasped at the grass below me and cut my fingers on the blades. Above me, the sky was terribly blue. No matter who I was, the world will move on without me. However, people could not so simply move on. Be it a matter of hate or a matter of love or just a matter of apathy, connections people had were difficult to sever. Before I realized it, a certain person had settled into my heart. I want to see Hatter. My Hatter. Alice, you really are no good. Now it's better to say that I really am no good. I had already fallen for that mad Hatter. She wound her way into my heart unintentionally as she threw me on a wild duck chase for the Red Queen's dismembered parts in her revenge. I wondered how she felt now that she had her goal fulfilled. The final look on her face that I saw before I died was painful. It was painful not because of the crushing of my skull, but because of the constriction of my heart as I looked at her. A strange girl, a lonely girl, ultimately a terribly kind girl who was stumbling along a bloody path. That was who the Hatter was. I'm sorry. I pushed myself up. Useless Alice had a wand, not one of obligation, not one of what should be because, really, had I really wanted to go home, not one that tutors or anyone forced upon her. I went to find the Hatter. I started walking. I started running. There she was, all by her lonesome. The bags under her eyes had not lightened at all, and she listlessly played with the rim of a teacup until she suddenly saw me. Why? She harshly stood up. Why did you come back? Why can't you just disappear? Grabbing a plate off of the table, ignoring the pastry atop it, she chucked it at me. Smash! The plate brushed me and shattered on the ground, leaving a mangled lump of sweets and porcelain. Alice. Alice! She slammed the table, originally forcing her hands down with great momentum before suddenly slowing down as she smacked it. Wincing, the Hatter let out a pained, guttural noise. Why are you like this? I hate you, Alice. She clutched her chest and glared at me with murky, watery eyes. Why are you like this? I had no answer. You're contradictorily cruel and kind. Messed up, Alice. Just choose one thing to be, you heartless woman. I like you, but I also hate you. I also liked her. I loved her. You useless freeloader who just comes to bother me, a waste of space. You're Alice who always accompanies me and extends a hand to me. You're the Red Queen, monster, killer. I hate you. Why couldn't you have probably just died? I killed you. You're the same thing as the Red Queen. You shouldn't have come back. She picked up a teacup and threw it at me, smashing me right in the forehead. I stumbled back. Hot tea spilled down me, mixing with the blood that came from the simple flesh wound. The cup itself shattered into tiny pieces on the ground. Go away! She grabbed the bloody hammer off the table and flung it, missing me by a far margin. It whooshed through the air, spinning, and lodged itself deeply into a tree behind me. My blood was still on the metal face. Tell me who you're supposed to be. Alice! The Red Queen and I are one and the same, but I am Alice. Her essence is intertwined with mine, but I am me and me alone. I'm scared of the idea that we could become the same. I never want to become someone like her, an empty heart, an empty life. Even as she lashes out to the rest of the world, she's still empty. Admittedly, I'm also not good. I'm a heartless person who hurts others as well, but I hold just two certainties. I am Alice, Alice is me. And for the I who am Alice, you are the person who took my heart. Is it okay to say I'm Alice? I nervously fiddled with my fingers behind my back, looking at the Hatter as my heart raced. I couldn't read her expression behind those mismatched eyes. She wiped her eyes with her sleeves, opening her mouth time and time again. She seemed to have trouble finding her words. I like the Alice who is Alice. The Red Queen scares me, but if you would let me believe it, I want to believe that you are Alice. Ever since March and Domas left, time has stopped at tea time like a curse. I'm tired of tea. Is my life just for revenge on the Red Queen? She looked up at the sky as if lost. The Red Queen is dead. Deliberately mouthing the words slowly again, she seemed to convince herself of that reality. Then she looked back toward me. Alice. You are Alice. Her voice grew small and she gazed downward to her feet. I heard you. I know. extended a hand toward her, she who was all alone, she who stood so close yet so far away. I wanted for her to take my hand. We were both problem children. Perhaps I was a little mad. She slowly walked before me, looking at my hand as if seeing something foreign. Lifting her arm up, she reached out her hand shakingly. Fingers trembled and hovered over my hands. For a moment she retracted her hand. Then she placed her hand in mine. I love you, Hatter. Alice. She stared at me, trying to ascertain the truth of my words. A deep, shaky breath, she gave me her response. I love you too. Would you accompany me for a dance, give me a kiss, and make me happy? She asked of me just 3 things. I can't make you happy. I wish that I could fulfill all 3 of her requests. Physical item or physical deed, those I could easily accomplish. Or one of the heart, I knew not if I could. I don't know if we can make each other happy, but I placed a kiss upon her lips. It's fine. Even if I have no ability to promise such things, I want to let you be happy. You're my dearest, precious person. I want you to be happy, Alice. That makes me happy. Not just like this. More so. Oh, that's so cute! I took her hand and we danced upon the table, spinning about, our feet tangled with the tablecloth and the tea set strewn about. Etta, if the world were to end tomorrow, what would you do? I have nothing left here for me, Alice, so I suppose I would do nothing. You're still right here with me, aren't you? She was so light. I wish I could show you my world. It's not a particularly spectacular world. Rather, it's utterly unfantastical. Yet there were things that I liked. Maybe my siblings, or rather the 2 cats, if you care for cats at all. I would have liked that. I pulled her along, leading the mad dance. With no music, we moved to the erratic tempo of our hearts together. Oh no, you can't see! I'm so sorry! You cannot see Alice! I'm so sorry, hold on. Goodbye. Hold on. Wait. There she is. Can you see her now? Sorry, I'll leave. I'm so sorry. It's more like Red Riding Hood. Well, just because she has a red cloak. I do a bad from stream. I'm sorry. Alice. Why did you fall in love with me? Maybe it was just fate. Maybe it was just luck. Meeting you time and time here, I grew fonder and fonder of you. At first, I simply thought you were lonely, but eventually I fell in love with your heart. Love. I've never known about love before. I'm not sure if I can truly explain why my heart beats as it does for you, Hunter. Even that aside, you're cute. You can cook and sew and brew good tea. You're warm. You're actually rather kind. What about you to me? I should ask that to you instead. Happiness, probably we had no such fate, but we wished for it. No, it's a good thing you said so. I'm so sorry. I keep forgetting that most of the stuff that is shown on the right side is just covered. Finally, we fell. Falling. We were falling. Down this rabbit hole with no start, no end, we were falling together. I knew not where we would fall, for there were no more wonderlands for us to fall to. The world we just fell from had been the very last iteration. I embraced the hatter and closed my eyes. How warm she was, the person who I treasured. I only asked for a world where we could be happy together. Surely we would meet again in a land much more wonderful than this. Somewhere, sometime, surely. Ah! Woo! I can't believe I should check. Oh. One ending guide, yes! I mean, now technically we've gotten 2 endings. You only saw the last 10 minutes. Alice ending, thank you for playing. I honestly don't know what I said. My monitor just turned off, that's fair. Script scene 61. 61%. Wait, hold on. Does the extra... Ooh. Add-ins. CG. Ah, there's some few more CGs here. Ending. I see. Well. Let's see then. What the other endings are. Should be this one. Yes. Oh god. Kill the bird. Yeah, let's go from happily frolicking around with our newly gained girlfriend to killing a bird. The more it chirped, the worse its voice grated on my ears. I picked up the bird in my hand, thinking I should shut it up. Shouldn't offer things you can't accomplish. Without thinking, I squeezed the bird in my hand. I let out a strangled cry and pecked at any skin it could hit, squirming and wriggling before it went still between my fingers. Now my palm was dirty, dripping with bird. Dripping with bird? Wait, sorry, hold on. Dripping with bird? Yeah, dripping with bird, okay. Oh yeah. The weird hours when you wake up from sickness-induced sleep. Government-sponsored drones. Only first I do you even love her. I shook my hand as if that would help get rid of some of the filth and wipe the rest off with a handkerchief that I surely had to throw away. Oh, I'm back. Okay, grow. I ate a left mushroom and immediately began to grow. My line of sight rose high and high as if I were a bean sprout. Once I stopped growing, I could reach the top of the towering tree if I reached out my arm. Fantastically, my clothes grew with me. I cautiously pinched the silver key and removed it from the tree, holding it lightly so as to not break it with my now giant hands. The key I now had, but the cage I could not open. I was much too big. The magic bubble. Okay, that's the same. Wee. Ah. Okay, well this time we're gonna go for the party immediately. And we're still gonna ask the Hatter to come with us. And offer our own arm. This girl was getting annoying, repetitive. Please provide an arm. Let this arm suffice. I extended my own arm to the guard, goading him to take it. If an arm the entrance required, then an arm I would provide. The guard nodded, leading us to the side and having me keep the arm outstretched above the table. He retrieved a clean, shining blade. The blade glittered with the sun like the moon. With a clean cut, my arm came straight off. It fell to the table with a small bounce. Suffice? Yes! Listen, I am so proud of myself whenever we play something and there's a bunch of words that show up that I know I have trouble with. And I'm saying them right. No? Suffice? Damn it! Suffice. Anyway, what I was trying to say is I am proud of myself when I say words right, and then I immediately fuck them up again. Suffice. 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 Damn. Okay. A sharp pain hit me the next moment. I stumbled back into the hatter, gritting my teeth as blood rushed out of the wound and dripped red. I could still sense my arm, phantom pain attached to the bone. I clutched at the wound, although my still attached hand never touched the flesh itself. It soon became covered in blood as it shook near the sun. The doctor arrived with some sort of medicine that she applied to the wound. Ghostly chills covered the hurt till it turned to but an aching. Once the bleeding ceased, she bandaged my injury, warning me not to remove the bandage before I re-obtained my arm. Shaking her head about Mad Noble, she left. Alice, could you reattach such a limb? You weren't a lizard, but a mere human. A little light-headed, I shook off the question. Alice. The guard retrieved my arm, placing it into a sealed box before handing it off to another servant who took it away to a safe place. You may enter, esteemed guests. God began to lead us in. Alice, why are you like this? What are you talking about, Heather? Just because I've heard a word before doesn't mean I will say it correctly. Not necessarily. Okay, king this time. I chose to take the king's piece role, for the king was the end of the game. While I was given a fake white crown and a sword, I was not a soldier. All white pieces shuffled in and took their positions on the board. Soon enough, the chessboard was set, a human-sized version of the strategy game unfolded. I had to start with the first move. And clash. One by one, our white pieces on the board fell, almost like dominoes. Perhaps don't deploy the queen? No, piece on the board cannot speak. We are the players and you are but a game piece. Pieces came dangerously close to me. The sound of metal filled my ears. Warm blood splattered over my face as an overzealous knight beheaded our last bishop. Then guts spilled over my shoes when the hatter took out the knight who had cornered me. I've never been much for strategy. The hatter yawned and rubbed her eyes. All her pieces had died, taken off the board with but a smear on the ground, aside from the pawns where the Duchess had taken far fewer losses. I had a feeling that we were doomed. Alas, what can we do? Now speaking. The game continued, and by mad luck, the hatter made her way to the other side of the board. Promote it, let the pawn turn into a queen. That's how it works, isn't it? I was just a hatter to turn the game around with the remaining X-pawns. The Black King was surrounded. Checkmate, Duchess. Then he cut him down. The Duchess clapped her hands in congratulations. That should be the same, except this time I get my own arm back, right? The hatter opened the box for me. Inside lay my arm in a small jar of the same medicine from before. My arm still looked fresh. I unraveled my bandage to find an unchanged wound. Popping the arm back onto the stump, I felt a strange knitting sensation at the connection point. I applied some medicine to the arm. With a squishing sound, my arm was reattached. The only remnant of its severance was a thin pink line that slowly faded into my skin. Well, that's nice. Okay, we ask for the hatter again. I thought back to the Cheshire Cat's taunting provocations. Thinking of a taunting. Okay. Aha! Okay, we do fight her. It's just the other way around this time. Because we went to the party first. We go for the definitely cliff and we terraform. And we ask for the tongue. Okay. Okay. I'm really sorry. It was nice meeting you. Ah, I see. Last time I only had the option to say I'm Alice. Oh god. I don't think this one's gonna be as happy an ending. I am the Red Queen. The person who hurt you so much, it's me. In the end, it's me whether I've taken on a different role here than before or not. I am the Red Queen just as I am Alice. We can only be one and the same. I had my hands behind my back, thinking about all the things I had killed, all the things I had hurt. A part of me relished in the violence. I'm sorry. I should have gone when you killed me. I should have atoned and never bothered you again. But I wanted to see you one last time. More than I expected. I had fallen for you. Oh! The hatter walked toward me. She grabbed my cloak, pulling me downward, closer to her. Her grip tightened and then loosened as if she didn't know how firmly to hold on to me. The expression tells me that you really leave me alone after coming back and telling me such things. I really hate you, Alice. I know. But I still one last kiss. My lips brushed past hers. She pulled me forward by the cloak and initiated another kiss, biting down on my lip till she drew blood. A taste that should have been bitter iron touched my tongue with sweetness. I love you. Ah! She pushed me down onto the ground. I really hate you. You know, right? I hate you, Alice. So get mad, keep bothering me, keep doing what you always do and stay with me for tea. The tears dripped down onto my cheeks. I know, but I love you. Alice, I love you, Hatter, so I can't say. Stay. It was because Wonderland was a terrible, bloody mess that we met. Perhaps in an ideal world, we never would have crossed paths. I didn't know which way we would have gone. Perhaps each of us would be left with a gap in our hearts. Perhaps each of us would find something else to fill us up. But it was in this imperfect world that we met. This imperfect place was no fairy tale. Bye, Hatter.
No!
It was time for Alice to leave. A light surrounded me, and I felt my body begin to crumble away, breaking apart to disappear from Wonderland. Perhaps I was already dead. So I had to thank whichever deity out there gave me the chance to say my goodbyes to the Hatter. With my remaining power, I let the current Wonderland crumble. The Red Queen's existence was not needed here. Let there be a Wonderland much more wonderful than this, much more peaceful and happy, one where she could still smile. Maybe I did know some German after all. Leb wohl! In a land more wonderful than this, we would not meet again.
No!
I don't like this one as much. Hi, Room.
No!
Boo! Boo!
Oh!
One more then. One more big ending. Let's see. We're going to go find the White Queen. You prefer the Yuri ending over the ending where you're alone. Who knew? You prefer the ending where you actually managed to find your humanity again. Did you see the Life is Strange sequel? Huh? Do you mean like a newly announced game? Or... because... Huh? No, I did not. Remind me after the stream, because no, I did not. I to this day still haven't played Before the Storm, or Life is Strange 2, or the other one. Okay. Thank you. Okay, what's this one? How does this one work? Find the White Queen. Is it? Oh, it's just about which order you do these things in, huh? Oh no. Okay, wait. We didn't kill the bird, but we still want to grow. We can get up there. But now we're going to invite the White Queen. Thinking to the eternal tea time of the Hatter, I decided that seeking out the White Queen would be more productive. Oh no. I dropped a limb off at the Hatter's place, thinking that bringing a piece of a dismembered person's body to the White Queen again wouldn't be quite appropriate. I walked to the White Queen's garden. This was a pretty place, and she a pretty person as before. She was watching a distance, looking at I did not know what. I wondered if my gaze toward her was like a gaze toward her object. Alice, you weren't the one she wanted. Hello. Yes, but I was the one in front of her right now. Good evening, Alice. It's almost time for dinner. Would you like to stay for a meal? Why did I give her a voice that is really hard for me to do? Is it a time already? The question made me realize the time once more. I would love to. Before long, a beautiful array of foods found its way onto the table, carried over by what seemed like magic, but was in fact little fairy lights. First came the appetizer. I put a forkful in my mouth and tasted nothing. And I haven't felt particularly hungry since I came to this world. I felt little thirst, little hunger, little urge to expel waste, all inconvenient facets of a mortal life. Perhaps this really was a dream. I know. This world must appear like a place of dreams. I picked up the food, my fork clanking against the plate as I moved items back and forth. She looked like a doll, perfectly practiced table manners, indifferent expressions. Nothing told me what she felt, only that she would complete this task of eating. The main course arrived soon enough. It was also bland. Silence fell upon the dinner table. Certainly speaking too much during a meal was frowned upon by some, but this was much too polite. What sort of upbringing did she have? A queen was a queen, but I knew not which country she ruled, nor what courtiers she had. The White Queen was a mystery. My fork and knife clinked listlessly against the plate. Eventually dinner came to a close with dessert.
The dessert.
Not the desert. I As the little cakes were delivered to the table by the same servants, I perked up at the sight of sweets. I took a bite. I mean, usually that's the case. That is the case because people who specialize in backgrounds don't usually draw sprite work, humanoid beings. Very rarely. There's obviously people who do, but like, usually if you specialize in detailed backgrounds like this, you don't draw humans. The cake tasted too light. As I looked down at the cake in disappointment, I heard a choking cough. Water? Cakes must have gotten switched. How so? Sweeter one for Alice and a lighter one for me was the plan, with the cakes decorated the same, someone must have mixed them up. Draw backgrounds for shit? Me neither. I never draw them. Usually can't draw robots or spaceships. There's always something. It was surprisingly thoughtful of her. Although her plans backfired, I felt a tinge of guilt for wondering if she had tried to feed me something strange. I could still eat it. Oh, I don't mean to tell you to eat something I've taken a bite of. Well, no, I'll have them replaced. She called the fairies over again and they left with the cakes. When they returned, they delivered new desserts, a vanilla ice cream sort of thing, to the table. You can't do anything particularly well. Don't you love it when people open commissions, they're like, oh, things I draw, humanoids, blah blah blah, you know, like just what they do, and then the things I want to draw, mech, gore. Okay. Yes, definitely. I wanted a very detailed drawing of Bumblebee from Transformers in a maid outfit after seeing your giant more blob drawings. Yes. I don't know. I picked up a spoon and watched as the utensil sank into the white sweet when I moved to take a scoop. There's a spoonful in my mouth. A chili sweet and creamy. What? A chili sweet and creamy melted on my tongue. I think that's missing a word. Delicious. I'm glad. I'm not used to strong flavors. Although I liked them as a child, I can no longer recall the feelings I had back then. At a time not too long ago where I was not allowed to eat many things or do many things at all. I feel unapologetic to the chef. It's just that I've become accustomed to, so even though she's gone. She looked somewhere far away, but soon refocused onto me. Her ice cream began to melt on her spoon as she unconsciously stirred it like a cup of tea. To live, one must eat and drink. That is what it means to be human. Human? I don't enjoy eating, but I rather do like tea. Should it be considered halfway there? Although it is also something I picked up from her. You must be bored listening to me talk about this, Alice. No, not at all. I want to know more about you. If I had to choose if I liked or disliked the White Queen, I would have to say I liked her. Deep within my heart, I held an inexplicable emotion toward her that I could not identify. That I had no reason to feel. After the desserts were done with, we talked a little more, mostly about useless little things. It's late now. Would you like to stay for the night? I would appreciate it. I've no place to be or go anyhow. After a while more, we departed from our position in the garden. She brought me to a guest room, walking before me under the starry night sky. Night, Alice. Will you head to bed as well? In a while, if I can. A little voice told me that she couldn't sleep very well. To live, one must also sleep, White Queen. Good night. Upon hitting the bed, I felt a haze of fatigue overcome my mind. My eyelids grew heavy, and I fell into a deep slumber. Surely I was dreaming within a dream. I dreamt of blood. The next day and the day after, I continued my search for the Red Queen's parts. Arm. Arm. Okay, this is the same. Search for Cheshire, which means fight Cheshire, which means go to the cliff and ask for it politely. I don't know how that's gonna work out, but sure, okay. That arm doesn't belong to you. Give it back, Cheshire Cat. Why should I? I ask politely because I would prefer to let you part with it on your own terms. If I must, I will take more drastic measures.
It squirmed under me, but I forced her down, sitting atop her body. I have no intention of staying in Wonderland. My current adventures through this world entirely to find a way back to my own world. As such, Cheshire, if you would hand over the arm, then we should have no further interactions. I will endeavour not to meet with you again unless it has to do with my way home. I can't find any more. My tension left her muscles, signaling to me that she had given up. She let out a scornful bark like a laugh as she agrees. Fine, I'll give you the arm. Let's get off. She made a weak motion as if to push me off. No, give me the arm first. Fine. It would have been armed and dangerous. Well, we did rip it off 2 separate times before. Bruised black and blue, bloody from our brawl, the Cheshire Cat twitched her stolen arm, looking at it hesitantly as if unwilling to lose it. She shook her head. A faint crackling noise from her neck made her let a little whine of pain. She nudged her cape closer to her face and bit into it. Then, with a flickering left arm, body twisted in an odd position under me, she tore the arm off of her own body with a slow and bloody rip. I heard the oddest sounds of flesh being rent from flesh. Through the cape came muffled groans. Tears glittered in her eyes. After what seemed like eternity, the cat chucked the removed arm to the side. Blood dripped out of the stump from which the limb was removed. The limb, too, made a crimson mess on the grass. Is that enough for you, Alice? I nodded. Now get off! I stood up from the cat, feeling a wave of dizziness hit me along with a throbbing headache. She rolled over in pain and started pushing herself up, stumbling and falling a number of times into the grass with an oddly red stride. Finally limping to her feet, the Cheshire Cat vanished. Now there was no more Cheshire Cat. Me. Looking around, I found that I was at the White Queen's garden. A raspy sound flowed out of my throat like gravel. Swallowing, I let out a grumble from the discomfort. I rolled to my side in discomfort before turning about again, feeling both the heat burning the back of my neck and a chill running through my whole body. Alice, you still caught colds like this? You were already so big. I blamed the cat. The voice in my head. You too could blame the cat. Drink some water, Alice. The White Queen appeared by my side with a cup of warm water. Lifting the cup to my mouth, she slowly tilted it for me to drink. Clumsy as she was, much of the water spilled past my lips. Then she retrieved a bowl of an unidentifiable dark liquid that smelled not quite like wine, yet not quite like anything else either. Some medicine prepared for you. It should help you get better. I opened my mouth like a baby bird as she moved a spoonful of medicine toward me. As it entered my mouth, I recoiled in disgust, sputtering at the taste. The metal of the spoon knocked against my throat, throwing me into a coughing fit and spilling the spoonful. Well, it's probably... yeah, medicine never tastes good, does it? Alice, are you alright? The White Queen quickly moved the spoon away. Taking a wet towel from a fairy light, she wiped away the spilled medicine. This is just medicine. It's bitter. Must you drink it all? Medicine is good for you, Alice. In this world there are many painful, bitter things that are good for you, so it would be best if you take it. I could not disagree, but the way her voice dipped made my heart ache. I wanted to disagree. Disregarding the taste that made me want to hurl, I took the bowl from her and gulped the medicine all down. I resisted gagging as I swallowed. Bitter. This medicine was much too bitter. My eyes watered from disgust. Good, Alice. She patted my hat, then she popped a piece of candy into my mouth. The sweet milky flavor melted in my mouth, masking the bitter, but not completely ridding my tongue of its misfortune. When I was a child and I had to take medicine, what my parents would always do is they promised me a sip of Coke. Whenever I had to take some medicine, because they're like, it's okay, just to get rid of the taste. It worked. Thank you for that, I did that. Sweet. Candy was sweet. I liked sweet. After I finished the candy, the White Queen gave me some more warm water and had me continue laying down to rest. White Queen, you're a little clumsy, but I appreciate you taking care of me. I haven't had anyone... She held my hand and squeezed reassuringly as she was here. Ah, thank you. Excuse me. I let
a yawn, feeling a haze float into my mind. Perhaps the medicine had begun to take effect. No, yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Alas, you're different from her. She never showed me the side. Not even at the very end. Not even then.
She murmured to herself, thinking that I would not hear. Alice, perhaps she was looking at you now. Although she was always looking far away. Perhaps at this moment she was looking at you, even just a little.
You were not on the way at that.
My eyelids grew so heavy that I couldn't keep my eyes open any longer.
Good night, Alice.
She laid a kiss on my forehead. Too tired to say anything in response, I fell into the realm of dreams. After a few days of rest under the White Queen's care, I recovered to full health. I never wanted to taste medicine again.
When you assemble the Red Queen, will you come visit again?
Yes, I will. The words reminded me that once I left Wonderland, no longer could I come find her at this garden. We would be separated by walls and never meet again. Surely. Bidding a goodbye to the White Queen, I stopped by the Hatter's place to drop off a limb. The Red Queen was nearly assembled, missing only a head and a fourth limb. Onward I continued with my search so that she could send me home. Okay, and then it's the invitation. Okay, but what if I take the White Queen here then? Does that work even? I invited the White Queen, feeling that she would be most fitting a guest to a noble's ball. White Queen, won't you accompany me to a ball?
I will attend if you would like me to. I'm not much for parties, but just as one as with you would be alright. Whose ball and when?
The Duchess's ball. The White Rabbit gave me an invitation to what she claimed to be an endless party.
Thank you for the follow. Come in.
I dug out the invitation and let the White Queen see.
Duchess's ball, and we should be in no hurry. Alice, would you like to try on a dress? It seems fitting for we are going to a ball, but you might not have one as you aren't from around these parts.
You are so right. Do I get a cool outfit? I might not. She had a whole wardrobe of dresses and accessories brought out and let me try them on. Lace and frills, silk and cotton, ribbons of various colors and glittering gems. What a variety. Not a single thing had been touched or worn before as if unwanted gifts. They were pretty, but not quite her.
You might understand why children like to doll up pretty girls.
I'm not particularly. We tried a number of different outfits. I changed into the next dress, a red dress. Feeling the comfortable fabric on my skin, I twirled around to feel the dress.
Red suits you, Alice.
It does, doesn't it? For a moment her gaze went far, far away. But perhaps not today. Must I wear a dress? I did not plan to be here for long enough to deal with the consequences, even if I particularly offended anyone. My plan was, and continued to be, to gather the Red Queen to leave. Therefore, if it would realign her gaze, then I preferred not to wear a dress.
No, you need not worry about a dress. If you would prefer not to, the Duchess won't be bothered. I did say that I could see the future, did I not? Let me reassure you of that, Alice.
She too seemed relieved that I chose not to wear this dress. The dress must have been tailored for someone special, as it didn't match the White Queen at all. I changed back to my own clothes, feeling my cloak snug around me. This suits me best. In exchange for that fun, will you allow me to do your makeup?
I don't see why not.
3 servants left over a makeup kit, bowing to me and her as they settled down. I looked at her face, the curve of her jawline, the shape of her lips. Seeing her up close, I felt a little flustered because she was so pretty. With the tools given, I traced over her features. Alice, was she not already perfect? What was there to even cover up and make more beautiful? Surely this was my white bird. Oops. Not wanting to ruin her features, I drew very little on, only dusting a light layer of blush on her cheeks. My hand hesitated. She shifted when the brush tickled her. She leaned in toward my touch, looking as if she would kiss me, and caused my heart to flutter and blood to rush to my head. Fiddling with the makeup tools, I retreated. That should be all. I didn't poke you, did I?
I felt nothing at all. Alice, you are in fact a very gentle person.
The fairy servant brought her mirror, pulled with a simple gesture from the White Queen. Looking upon my handiwork, I found that she looked no different from before, pretty and white. Still, she seemed pleased. As I decided not to dress up, the White Queen chose to do the same.
What if meant another sprite?
No, I get it. Shall we go? I extended a hand toward her.
Certainly.
She called a carriage, a pretty crystal thing whose coachman sat invisibly with but a shadow. The horses too were nowhere to be seen like fairies. We entered the carriage and off it went. I looked outside the window, seeing familiar yet unfamiliar scenery, some places I had never passed by even when coming to a garden. Our ride stopped amongst a number of other carriages. I alighted, helping her down, and we walked up to the Duchess's manor. The guard stopped us at the entrance. Please show your invitation card. I handed the guard the card. He looked it over, glancing at me and the White Queen before stiffening in surprise. Your Majesty, the White Queen. Making eyes toward another guard, the guard gestured and led us inward a few steps through the entranceway. The guard's fellow quickly darted inside as if to report the appearance of a rare visitor. To enter, a guest must provide an arm. The arm will be returned to you whenever you wish to leave the party. An arm, a limb. The guard nodded. Yes, I'm afraid I cannot make an exception for anyone. Well, I am not going to be giving my own arm. An arm, a limb. Certainly I had one I could obtain from the Mad Hatter. I then saw the White Queen, thinking of how I had never mentioned the Hatters in my agreement. The agreement of blasphemy.
And I already forgot how to say this. Majesty.
For reasons unknown, I felt strongly that the White Queen knew more about the Red Queen's dismemberment than I did. Perhaps she did not lie about knowing the future. Alice, of course she did. Let's go ask the Hatter.
The Hatter? The one who lives in the woods and cannot sing?
Are there many Hatters in Wonderland?
Perhaps there were, just not many satisfactory enough.
Without asking any further questions, she followed my lead to go find the Hatter. Arriving at the Hatter's place, I found the Hatter having her usual tea time, chatting with the puppets on her hands. She spotted us sitting up straight in her seat, seeming surprised at seeing the White Queen. The darkness stirred in her mismatched eyes as she saw my guest.
Your Majesty, the White Queen. No room. 3, 4, 5. 5's enough for all the people in this world.
Don't be so rude to Her Majesty the White Queen. You wouldn't want your hats to go flying again. I didn't bother to take a seat this visit, knowing that if I were to lounge in my armchair, I would stay here with the Hatter for much too long. We aren't here for tea, Hatter.
A real shame.
Or rather an arm, preferably detached from anything else.
Yes.
The Hatter looked down at her own limbs. One of that person's would suffice. We only need to borrow one for a bit.
An arm would be appreciated, Hatter.
I love her very much. The Mad Hatter in this one, yes.
I said so. Your Majesty, you'd like to borrow a limb, I'm surprised. After all, you were the one who did that. Did you lose it? What I meant to ask is, did you use your trash?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I forgot that it was supposed to be a secret. I suppose I shouldn't show my gratitude, and it's a reflect on my rudeness. My sincerest apologies. Sorry, ma'am. Didn't mean to mention that choppity chop. Our hats have been the same since I fell off the first time.
A bit of an open secret, don't you think? I ask you not to speak of that matter.
I understand. Our lips are sealed, except tighter than tight.
Regarding the arm, Hatter?
Of course. Alice, you were the one who found it.
The Hatter hopped over to the dog cage and kicked it open, pulling an arm out like a bear fishing from a stream. She held it far from her as it began to flail and shucked it my way over the table. The limb flew in an even arc through the air, forcing me to dash toward the piece of meat. I just barely caught it in my arms, nearly stumbling into the White Queen who stood near me. Her arm. The White Queen's eyes bored into the severed arm with distorted intensity.
Bring it back later, Alice.
I will. Saying goodbye to the Hatter, we returned to the Duchess's manor. The guard greeted us, and we handed over the arm we retrieved. His gaze lingered on the White Queen after ascertaining the validity of their arm as an entrance fee. Even he must have noticed that she seemed reluctant to part with the limb. The guard handed our entrance fee off to a servant who put it into a sealed box and took it away for safekeeping nonetheless. Please enter, esteemed guests.
We arrived at the Duchess's ballroom.
Although the hostess was nowhere to be found, servants milled around the floor with refreshments for the guests. A quartet performed in the front, food set at the tables to the sides of the room. All around were faceless people dressed up like clowns. The moment the White Queen stepped foot into the room, all heads turned toward her. A horde approached us, circling around the White Queen so that she could not easily escape. Yet they kept their distance, as if gazing upon a rare zoo animal.
Greetings, Your Majesty the White Queen. Have you been well? We have nothing but gratitude for all you have done for this kingdom in the face of tyranny. Her Majesty was... Oh no, this is still a difficult topic to speak of. Jinx said, if you speak of the devil will appear. Your Majesty, won't you come visit the Marquisdom? Your white hair is as beautiful as snow today. No wonder you so adored. Your beauty was such that even she was so enamored with your presence. It was... I shouldn't speak of her. I wish I could touch your skin.
Ugh. That's not something you say. You just say to people.
Oh, I wish I could touch your skin.
Excuse me.
You did us a good deed. Paragon of virtue, the heavens must sing your praises. You're truly the queen with the divine right to watch over Wonderland. It must weigh heavily on you to have had to take such drastic measures. What are your plans now on the empty throne? A rabbit, an animal, still thinks that she can be found. This is what we get for letting vermin rise up the ranks, but no one else wanted to be in that position. You say that because you're incompetent. Surely this kingdom might fall into disarray, Your Majesty. You have any intentions for who should be delegated to rebuild Wonderland? You've worked so hard, so why not take a good rest and let others do the dirty work? My husband is always... Your husband isn't exactly here right now. Wasn't he banned for making a ruckus? Your Majesty, please don't take offense, but in a wonderful place, brilliant volcanic springs, to recuperate from being locked away for so long. If you will consider my brother...
White Queen. My hand brushing against hers, I was sick of hearing all the dribble leaking from the faceless crowd's mouths like half-chewed slop. She nodded. We must go see the Duchess now to talk about matters of the Red Queen.
Yeah.
Upon mention of the Red Queen from the White Queen's mouth, the pigs surrounding the White Queen collectively gasped and took a few steps back.
Debbie.
She nodded ambiguously, causing them to scatter with one excuse or another. Soon a servant approached, telling us that the Duchess was ready to meet us in the parlor, and that we could head over as soon as we wanted. I spoke too soon. Was I simply a bluff to make them back away?
Yes. It may be just as well that we meet with the Duchess because you're searching for the Red Queen to find your way back home. Shall we, Alice? I'm losing my voice. Sorry.
I followed the White Queen through the manor hallways, glancing left and right at familiar and familiar. Alice, the Duchess must have redecorated. What unspoken good deed have you done at those nobility would not leave you alone, White Queen? Absolutely nothing. She stopped. I stopped. The Duchess welcomes you. Oh! New room. The guard before a room bowed and opened the door, letting us into the Duchess's parlor. Inside sat a featureless woman who hid her face. Instinct told me that she was ugly, yet I could not see anything, not disfigurement, no beauty. I perceived her. She was a Duchess. Welcome, Your Majesty, the White Queen, and what name did you go by now? Yes, Alice. The Duchess looked at the White Queen before glancing toward me, returning a sense of pity toward us. Your heart is still entangled. You didn't come to me for that advice, beloved White Queen. I believe you wanted to speak to me about our dearest Majesty, the missing Red Queen. Yes, it's Alice's matter. We told the Duchess about my circumstances. I fell into this world unknown and was seeking out the Red Queen in order to find a way home. We left out the part where the Red Queen was dismembered, but the Duchess already knew. You are searching for the Red Queen, but the Red Queen has been dismembered. To even request aid from her, you must assemble all of her pieces. Since so happens, I have a left leg in my possession. In that case, would you give it to us? I will be giving it to a pair of guests at today's ball. It would be unfair for me to hand it off to you when another pair would have had to show their prowess to earn the loot. I will offer something in exchange. You have nothing to offer, nor have you a true desire to meet our dearest Majesty again in this form or another. Of course, these are only my own thoughts. Forgive me for assuming, but I cannot give you the limp like this. Rather than letting her offer something in exchange, would it not be better for me to do so as the person searching? What could convince you to give up the limb, Duchess? I will hold a little game today, and if you win, then the limb will be yours. A game? Yes, a game. Our dearest Majesty loved her games, even if they were much too often too cruel. All games with no winner, not even herself. I'm sure that Her Majesty the White Queen remembers. Will you not do me a favor, Duchess? No, not even for you, Her Majesty's most beloved. The White Queen looked away. Finding little more we could say to convince the Duchess, we left the Duchess's parlour, seen off through the door by her. We returned to the ballroom to wait. The quartet continued playing. The previous crowd saw the troubled look on the White Queen's face and decided not to approach, only watching her from afar. Dancing pairs filled the floor. The White Queen eyed me as if she wanted to request something. When I turned to question her, she pretended to look at the refreshments. Do you like dancing? Just a normal amount. You needn't feel restricted by me. I'll be fine by myself if you would prefer to have a dance, or if you know that you. Alice. What is it? May I invite you to dance? I took her hand and we went toward the dance floor. The next song started. Tap, tap, step, step. A practice sequence of footwork moving across the room at the rhythm of the music. We danced while gazing into each other's eyes. Without even saying what we should dance, we just danced. I took Alice's part, she took the White Queen's part, there was nothing more. Feeling ambitious, I twirled her around, chuckling as she grew a little flustered when I caught her. I saw a strange expression as if she had expected something different, but the smile that floated to her eyes reassured me that I hadn't done wrong. The White Queen was always looking somewhere else, perhaps to the future, perhaps to the past, perhaps to a person who wasn't here, even though we were here right now. This was our dance alone. Thank you. No, I enjoyed that. Can we dance together again one day? Perhaps one day we should. The music stopped along with the dancing. It was at this time that the Duchess made her appearance. Behind her was a servant carrying the severed leg under a red cloak. Tonight we have a special gift to be given to a single guest. A hushed whispering ran through the ballroom as all the guests guessed at what the White Queen and I had already learned. We're holding a chess tournament, the usual game that ends when the king has fallen, even here where the king has long gone. Of course, the winner will receive the prize. The servant removed the cloth. All around, the guests let out a collective gasp. What, you may ask? Why, it could only be Her Dearest Majesty's leg. May the best strategist win. The Duchess clapped. The servants began to move out, setting up tables and chess sets in a matter of minutes. With a matchup list created, the tournament started. Here was an exercise left to the reader. If given a game and a player terribly good at the game, what would happen? Naturally, the player would win, and win again. To my surprise, for this game that was chess, the player who was terribly good was the White Queen, even with the handicap of Alice as a teammate. We made our way to the finals where we met with the last opponent not at a table, but in a cleared out space in the ballroom with a large chessboard overlaid. I don't think I get to choose who I am this time. The last opponent was the Duchess. Around her lined up stood 1/3 dozen soldiers dressed up in black chess pieces. Human chess, Duchess. Our dearest Majesty enjoyed watching games like this. One of you two have to take the role of a piece, and otherwise I will provide the other pieces for you to play with. Please take your time to decide. Those blades that the Duchess's black pieces wielded looked heavy and sharp, dangerous. Alice, let me. You could get hurt, White Queen. I would say the same to you. At the very least, the Duchess would hesitate to hurt me for I am the White Queen. However, you are Alice. I know. In that case, I can't just let you take that risk. Funny, the idea of seeing you hurt pains my heart. We stood at a standstill for so long that the Duchess had a set of white pieces shuffle in and take their spots on the board. One of us had to be the human chess piece. Ah, no, never mind, I do get to choose. Interesting. Let me. I was at best mediocre at chess, even if the tutors had smacked basic strategy into me, so I preferred to trust the White Queen instead to command the board. She acquiesced, making me take on a pawn's position. As I obtained a sword for my role, I speculated about what strategy she would formulate. The White Queen started with the first move. Directing the pieces here and there, moving me carefully as well, the White Queen captured the Duchess's black pieces with ease. Coming here with this girl who resembles her, Your Majesty the White Queen, I wonder what you intend to do. In a way, I understand. She was so terribly, terribly bright, so bright that she would burn away. A brilliant and terrifying person that I could not help but watch. However, regardless of who this girl is, are you still unable to look away from that person? The White Queen stumbled, sacrificing a bishop in a position she had not meant to order him toward. No. I said so. Not very good sportsmanship to say such things during a match, Duchess. There, then let us say nothing unrelated to the match. Of
course, you have a piece on the board, so you two must stay silent as chess pieces do not talk to their players.
Sorry, I feel like there's way more text boxes that just say for Alice this time around.
Thank you, Alice. I nodded in acknowledgement, keeping my mouth shut as per the Duchess's rules. She moved me all the way to the other side. As a pawn, one of the most disposable pieces on the board, I was oddly enough kept perfectly safe. I promote Alice to queen.
Says all you need to say.
Promotion from pawn to queen consisted of handing me a flimsy white crown and a new sword. Within a handful of moves, the white queen desolated the Duchess's black chess army, rendering the Duchess's side nearly empty. Actually, I have a question.
As someone who doesn't know chess rules at all, can you promote a piece to a position that you already have on your board? So like, I mean, okay, I guess the only thing that only shows up once here that would be the king, the queen, because if the king, even, I know that the king you need until the end, but you could, if you already have one queen, could you still promote another piece to another queen? Is what I'm trying to ask. There we go. You do not know either. Damn.
The white queen maneuvered me to the Duchess's black king. With one last move, we would win the game and obtain the red queen's leg. Checkmate, Duchess. I cut on the black king, wondering why the sensation of my blade hitting flesh felt familiar. The Duchess clapped her hands. Congratulations, this is my loss. Even facing my challenge fair and square, you have ultimately obtained the red queen's land. I wish you best of luck gathering her parts for better or for worse. I'm in no position to stop you, not when even your majesty the white queen approves. If your dearest majesty is to return, then we must accept that and end the party. Would you like to take your prize now? Yes. The Duchess issued over to the servant with the prize and handed the leg to me. I hope you enjoy the rest of the ball. And, Your Majesty the White Queen, do come visit whenever you would like to talk with me again. The Duchess departed with her servant following after her, just as quickly as she left. Chess setups were cleared away. I looked toward the White Queen, touching her hand to gain her attention. Her hand felt cold. Do you want to stay for longer? The White Queen shook her head. You may promote to anything you want, so 2 queens as possible. Oh! Interesting. I've had enough excitement for the day. Thank you for inviting me, Alice. Although the last game of chess was nerve-wracking, I enjoyed spending today with you. No, thank you for coming with me. I feel the same. I found a servant to leave and were redirected outward. He retrieved the sealed box with our entrance fee and handed it over. I will leave you with the limb. Do you want to meet with the Red Queen again? That's a difficult question, Alice. I see. I already understood that she had a complicated relationship with the Red Queen, but I wanted her to look at me instead. Alice was right in front of her. No, at the very least I wanted her to smile without looking at something so far away. No, a chess set should... Oh, that's a good question. How would you promote a piece if you... Because surely the person she was looking toward was the Red Queen who had already been dismembered. We parted ways. Taking a wrong turn, I exited to a garden, and at the far end of the garden was an exit. I turned back to ask the White Queen to find that she had already gone. This must have been the Duchess's garden, seeing as I had just come from her manor. I strolled through the garden, appreciating the flowers and greenery, yet couldn't help but compare it to the White Queen's garden. Perhaps I would go visit the White Queen again. Without much further ado, I made my way through the garden exit. Not taking even 5 steps out, I stumbled. A sudden vertigo struck me. I must have had a long day. I reasoned as I held a hand to my forehead while trying to steady myself. My brain spun like a sloshed up pit of mud. I must have forgotten something very important. I leaned back against a tree to take a break, looking upwards. Eyelids flickering, I wondered if the sky had always looked so far away. My free hand, propped against the bark, slid downward unconsciously. So, do we wake back up at the Hatter's place, or...? I closed my eyes for a moment. Darkness. We do! Where's the tongue? tried to find out, but I see.
Okay. Oh! This is different.
I landed in a wonderland not quite right, one where the hourglass of time had reversed. Looking upward, I found a sky distorted and staring with darkness that amplified my phantom headache that throbbed despite losing its cause. I placed a hand to my head, feeling a smooth skin where the hammer had struck. Like the first time, what should have been the first time, the first being I met was the White Rabbit. Like Wonderland, today she seemed different, crueler. An unrestrained black danced in the back of her eyes.
What microphone I'm using?
A blue Yeti.
Though I cannot tell you which exact version that is. Not terribly. This is a pretty old version of a Blue Yeti at this point. I think 100 something. Like that's for a microphone like this with the whole arm and everything. I think that's an okay price for the quality. I think.
Evil Yuri chest, win by getting a second queen and kill your own king, and then have them kiss. Your Majesty.
The rabbit greeted me as if I were the Red Queen. Well, perhaps I was. Alice, perhaps you were. Not bothering to acknowledge her, I let her continue speaking, saying what she had to say to the Red Queen in an obsequious tone of voice?
You wish to visit Her Majesty the White Queen today?
Yes. I gestured for her to lead the way. Following only a pace after the rabbit, I walked down an unfamiliar path. Wonderland was quiet, much quieter than I was accustomed to, even the grass wilting away from my presence, not to speak of the animals.
A report on Her Majesty the White Queen's affairs. As punishment for previous transgressions, we have been regulating her sleep to 1 hour intervals as ordered. She's been much quiet as of late. I hope that she will learn the errors of her ways for disrespecting Your Majesty. Additionally, as per your orders, we have put it on a dietary restriction to regulate her weight. We found that some chefs have been sneaking her extra food. The chefs responsible have been sent to do hard labor.
I said so. The rabbit talked about the usual things. Walking, we arrived at a tall tree and a large birdcage, a location I recognized from when I had obtained the Red Queen's right leg once upon a time.
Your Majesty's mood has been strange today. Could it be?
Are you questioning me, Rabbit?
My sincerest apologies, Your Majesty.
Leave. Following profusely, the rabbit backed away and scampered off. I approached the birdcage, finding a pretty white bird locked within. No, I found the White Queen locked within that birdcage, much too cold.
Alice, how would you catch her if you let her go free?
She looked skinny, desperate, as if she had lost all hope. Just as a flower would wither once picked, a bird too would if locked away from the sky. The White Queen was a human, not a bird. She was a person, not an animal. I knew that. Alice, I also knew that. I grasped at the metal bar of the cage. White Queen.
I have nothing to say to you, Red Queen.
My eyes betrayed an expression that could not be called hate, a complicated expression, one all too familiar. You won't even bother to treat me softly today after everything you have done to me. Rather than the Red Queen, I am Alice. I doubted myself, remembering that I had this expression for a moment. You said you could see the future, White Queen. I suppose that must have been a joke, as I expected if you've yet to know who I am. We meet in another wonderland. I may have fallen in love, and maybe my affections were one-sided. In a terribly beautiful garden, I was lost chasing after rabbit in confusion after falling down a rabbit hole into another world. I told the White Queen about my adventures in Wonderland. I told her about a strange hatter with mismatched eyes, a cat whose dark tail flickered like flames, and the whimsy of living limbs. I told her about the brilliant night sky and every moment we spent together, too few yet still overwhelmingly precious. Then I came here and met the White Rabbit who led me to you.
How fantastical that would be.
I felt the same way, speaking about the quest that I, the dull Alice, had found myself embarking on upon falling through an endless void. Only a miracle could have brought me here to meet her and all the others in Wonderland.
Tell me, you who share her face but not her name, Why should I believe you? Why should I think that you're not but the Red Queen mad again with some scheme? She is the one who knows me best in this world. We are born together, fated to die together, as if death could reach us at all. Bound by a marriage from our conception, did you not say? She said. The Red Queen said. So it should be that you finally lost it. Their eyes locked onto my body, the Red Queen's body, as if viewing someone unfamiliar. Or am I the one who's gone mad? You claim to be from the future. Then should I be from the past? The Red Queen is dead in my time. Do you understand what those words mean? Only a pinch of blasphemy. Only a pinch. But these memories, these happenings that must have happened in the future, they're quite important to me. Meaning you was important to me. Important. You also like to say sweet words in the past. You say that she also liked to say sweet words in the past. I understand now. The Red Queen will no longer love me, so she gives me a replacement until she tires of playing this act. Tell me, what type of tea do you prefer? I blinked in surprise at the sudden change of conversation topics. Black tea. Do you still like white tea now? The White Queen looked at me, at Alice, for only a second. No. A strange tone of voice escaped through her lips as if she came to a realization. She sounded soft and tired. Tell me again about the future. We'll meet again. I'll free you from this cage. You'll be free, beautifully, and... My voice trickled off into silence. I had no happy ending to tell of us. None of it was of the White Queen. What mattered to the White Queen was the Red Queen. She was long gone. Why? No, don't answer. I believe you. Something beyond logic tells me that I should believe you. Can you make the me of the future happy? I wonder. After all, my White Queen had always been looking for— what the actual fuck? Why are the trains so loud tonight? Had always been looking for a way. Oh, you wanted to leave after all. You gave me a wonderful story, but tell me about that one next time, please. Remembering the key I obtained in the previous Wonderland, I checked my pocket and pulled out that very key. Take this. Holding it in a closed fist, I passed the key to the White Queen through the cage bars. She took the key with trembling hands, gripping it tightly as if the metal would disappear. Knowing that having the key was a risk, she hid the key away in her dress. Perhaps she would use it to escape from the Red Queen. What? Your Majesty, urgent news! There's been an incident in court with the carts! The rapid sudden reappearance forced our conversation to a halt. The Red Queen will kill them all. Don't go. The White Queen gestured to me, telling me to lean in closer to her. She moved up to the bars of the cage as close to me as she could come. Show me that I can believe in you and I will find you. Until later, Alice. And she gave me a peck on the cheek. And falling, I was falling once more. I fell down, down, and down through a sparkling, shining darkness. Too bright to be dark, too dark to be bright. I recognize this darkness now. I wanted to be chasing after someone, after something. Falling, I fell until I landed and saw the night sky above me. Before me laid out was a scene between the Red Queen and the White Queen. I was like a spirit, invisible to all who were present. The Red Queen was on the ground before the White Queen, sword in the White Queen's hand. The blade glittered in the moonlight, betraying its sharpened edge. Behind the White Queen stood a group of denizens of Wonderland. Off with their heads for the crime of treason. I give up. I'm gonna go home. The Red Queen's shoulders shook once in surprise and nothing happened. Not a single head went flying with mysterious force. They're my citizens now, Red Queen. You may not touch them. Your right only extends to those you have subjugated, not mine. You were once sole ruler of Wonderland, but now you have lost. I united this dirty, broken world and tried to make everything right. Protect the people, uphold the law, bring order to Wonderland and find its peace. In which way was I wrong? Red must spill for peace, but it seems some people prefer freedom over all else. We were born just as space and time were created. We were born just as space and time were created the genesis of this world. We were the only two existence of this distorted wonderland. Therefore, given such power, we were to be rulers of wonderland with divine right. You were the one who gave it away first because you were weak, so I took all of the responsibility onto myself because I loved you. But you're not happy within my cage, protected from the outside world. We're the only two of our kind in this world. If you didn't care for this place, now that we live a beautiful life within a cage, would you stay beautiful white? I loved you dearly, White Queen. But you were the same as everyone else. Traitor. I'm almost sad. No, heartbroken. What choice do I have now? White Queen, you'll cut me down now, won't you? Or will you continue to be a coward? Show me your conviction to betray me. There can only be one victor if we get to be pitted against each other. I couldn't see the Red Queen's expression. I loved you. I betrayed you? You were the one who betrayed me first. The White Queen raised her sword and cut. A limb. Sharp pain shot up my arm even though I was not the one who was cut. Who betrayed who first? You who are in charge of time. Second limb. I squirmed as I tried to grab at a wound that did not exist with an arm that my brain screamed was no longer attached. It hurt, but no red came out of me. You should know better than me. A third limb. A final limb. Blood splattered over the White Queen's dress, staining her red as the Red Queen's body shook. In agony, I gasped. My vision shook, tilting as I lost equilibrium and filling with tears. I collapsed to the ground and writhed even though my limbs were still intact. I didn't even know what to clutch at, what to clutch with. You're also as saddest, aren't you? I'm just angry. Finally, off went her head. Once, twice, thrice, the White Queen hacked the Red Queen's neck as if taking out her frustration on a neck already severed. My consciousness snapped. My vision blacked out. The sound of cheering brought me back to this wonderland's reality. The once quiet crowd began to celebrate a dismembered Red Queen. We're free! The tyrant is dead! Your Majesty the White Queen, won't you be the new ruler of Wonderland? No. Her voice was quiet, fragile. I would appreciate if you would all keep news of this murder quiet. She did not turn around, not wanting to show the difficult expression that found its way onto her face. Ignoring the joyous clamoring of her people, the White Queen looked down at the Red Queen's corpse. So the White Queen was the one who had dismembered the Red Queen. I choked at the pained laugh at the revelation, grabbing at my neck to ascertain that I had my head. I was dying. I was dying, yet I wasn't dying. I was still intact. The one who had been dismembered was the Red Queen. However, we were nearly one and the same. Alice. The White Queen's whisper broke me out of her stupor, her gaze landing directly on me to the point that our eyes met, and she would not look away. She walked forward 2 steps, both toward the Red Queen's corpse and toward me. Alice. Reaching out a hand, she tugged at my ephemeral form. Ephemeral? I don't know. Then I was falling. Falling. I was falling again. Raging phantom pain that sent me nearly catatonic, faded with a chilly sensation reminiscent of the White Queen. In this deep rabbit hole where time was but an illusion, I fell and healed. I was Alice. I was the Red Queen. We were one and the same but divergent. The voice within my heart quieted until she no longer spoke. Ephemeral? I still held that one certainty. I was Alice. Alice was me. Even now, that wasn't wrong, but I was also the lonesome Red Queen, or what could have been for her, she who had been killed at the end. What madness. We were both our own madnesses, but I wanted not to be my own tragedy. I fell forward into my relative present and hit the ground softly. Laying back flat on the ground, I grasped at the grass below me and found that the blades were soft, gentle even. Above me, the sky was devoid of stars. No, it was still daytime, so I should have instead said that the sky was blue. Terribly blue. I forced myself up to my feet, surveying a wonderland that I learned to know. This was no longer the Red Queen's wonderland, yet it was not the White Queen's either. Thinking about the White Queen, I wanted to talk with her. No, Alice, you've got a manner to finish first. My mind drifted to a pair of mismatched eyes. I sought out the hatter, coming to the hatter's place that had always been at tea time, regardless of morning, noon, or night. Looking left, right, up and down, I could not find the hatter anywhere in sight. The table of tea things stood untouched. On the ground was a bloodied hammer. When I went around to my armchair, it still had its usual odd smell.
Thank you for the follow, welcome in.
The Red Queen's corpse was nowhere to be seen, but that mattered not. The only thing truly missing was the hatter. I understood. In my heart I understood that there was no more hatter in Wonderland, for the hatter had completed her revenge, her one and only final task. Checking the table, I saw the familiar pair of puppets, the March Hare and the Dormouse. I picked them up for just a moment, looking at the carefully stitched parts that desperately tried to hide that they were but cloth. Then I put them down gently. I'm sorry, Hatter. I left the Hatter's place, knowing that I would no longer find her here in Wonderland. Lonely. I felt lonely. I wandered about and inadvertently walked my way to the White Queen's garden. I saw the White Queen, who appeared the same as usual. In a chair across from her sat the Red Queen's corpse. The Red Queen did not fit this pure garden, but she and the White Queen must have had a conversation here. Alice, how long has it been since we last met? Much too long. I'm sure you must have questions. Allow me to explain why I instructed you to seek out the Red Queen when the Red Queen was already dead. We, the Queens of Wonderland, were created with a power within us. I hold power over Wonderland's time. She held power over Wonderland's essence, its space and boundaries. Even a remnant of that power can send you back home. With the corpse gathered, that power can be used. I know. I felt the power take root in my soul. So you do. It's time for you to depart from this imperfect Wonderland, Alice. Wait. I like you. I love you. I want to spend more time with you, Red Queen. You're always looking far away toward the Red Queen, so I wish you would look at me. She carved herself into my heart irreparably. A long, long time ago she was. Even though she caged me away, even though I was the one who killed her, how odd, I still cannot put into words what I feel toward her. The Red Queen began to disappear, dissolving into tiny lights. The corpse faded away as if her role in this world was no longer needed. I saw the Red Queen mouth a few words, but I knew that they were not for me. I'm sorry, that was inappropriate of me to say. Perhaps I had long been rejected. No. At first I saw you and thought of the Red Queen. I thought that you could be her. You probably don't remember. But that was why I dragged you through time and time again, pulling you from a time where by a miracle you fell down the rabbit hole into another Wonderland. That was my obsession. With her. But eventually I learned that you were different. You were Alice. Perhaps parts of your existence are similar. I could call you her of another world, or her you of another world. But you alone are Alice, and I fell in love with you. Kind, soft Alice who can be a little strange. Alice who chases after her goals. Alice who somehow fell in love with someone like me. Thank you for the pet. Yes, I think it's a miracle that we met here in this Wonderland. Maybe I can begin to heal. I love you, Alice. Not in a way that I don't know what to feel about the Red Queen, but from the depths of my heart, I love you. The White Queen pressed a kiss to my lips. My heart raced. I hadn't thought that she would reciprocate my feelings. Tears welled up in my eyes, dripping down my cheeks in disbelief. Kiss me again? We kissed again clumsily. White Queen, I love you. I wish that this world were more perfect so that we could be together. Despite what goes on in our hearts, it's still time for you to depart. You have to leave, Alice. Go back home to your own world. Come with me? I can't, Alice. But this world will fall apart now that the Red Queen is truly dead and I have drained my power as well in my selfishness. This imperfect Wonderland was a miracle. I'm glad I was able to meet you. I wanted to stay here by her side. White Queen, truly. She put a hand on my shoulder. Goodbye. And pushed. Then I was falling. I tried to go back up, but the Red Queen's power wouldn't respond. As the gate to return to my own world opened, the power evaporated. Falling, 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 I was falling. The White Queen. I wanted to go back to the White Queen. Alice, who had never quite wanted anything so much, wanted to take her hand again, to see her again, to steal a happy ending together with her. Yet no matter what I did, I continued to fall through this darkness too bright. Falling, I left Wonderland and could no longer return. If this were the case, I would have rather forgotten. I would have rather forgotten something very important, but I knew that I would remember everything that happened in Wonderland. I fell until I could fall no more. Hitting the ground, I opened my eyes to reality, seeing my family's house in the distance. The sky was blue, still terribly blue. I started crying, my shoulders shook. Hearing as my sisters rushed over to ask what was wrong, I wished and wished to see her again. Surely we would meet again in a reality more wonderful than a dream. One day, while out on a walk with the cats, I stumbled into a girl with white hair. Alice.
Oh! Oh! Isn't that fascinating? Thank you for the pet! Oh! Truly.
Very good.
Very good.
Better than I like both. I like both a lot. This one gives us a few more answers to the world. The first one we got was the happiest. A little. Well, everything else is dead endings. We've been going from happiest to darkest, but this one gave us the most information about the world, so this was nice. I just wish they would have put some sound on the main screen. Ignorance is bliss, maybe. This was so good. Oh, who is the Red Queen? Nice. I like that they played with, like, as I said, I've never read the original Alice, but like when I think of Alice in Wonderland, I always absolutely do imagine a blonde, blue-eyed Alice. So what now? Now I end the stream, and now I send you guys over to someone else. Now I end the stream because I'm already going overtime and I have to work tomorrow. Sad face. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely people out there who do stuff that is not as anime-ish when it comes to sprite work. Blonde, blue-eyed ass with blue dress. Yeah. Yeah, same. That's kind of the image I have in my mind when I think of Alice all the time. Thank you for a nice stream. No, thank you for coming. Someone else, as if you don't know why you sent this. How dare you? Yeah, no, I'm taking a chance. I'm taking a chance because we have finished Outer Wilds. I can't do it was too vorschlagen. No, I sadly do have to go. I also have to figure out what game to play next week, but I'll post the schedule in a bit. But yeah, since we finished Outer Wilds, I can now safely say I do not care about spoilers for the game anymore, which means I can send you guys over to Leary, who's playing the Outer Wilds DLC. Enjoy! Thank you guys so much for coming tonight. Here's a raid message. We'll be playing some of the usual stuff next week. We will continue Atelier, we will continue Last Judgment, and I will look for another preferably gay visual novel, actually, because it is June, it is Pride Month, and we always love ourselves some girls like his girls and stuff. So stay tuned. Have a good night, everyone. And bye bye. Can we not horror gore this time? I'll try. No promises, but I'll try. Bye bye.